Ready?
Of course, I'm definitely.
All right. Welcome everybody to Centerville City Council meeting being held here on June 20th, 2023 at Centerville City Hall. We welcome the members of the public that are in person or that may be joining by computer as well too. We want to do a roll call to make sure that we can conduct business, and we will start with Councilwoman Meekum.
Present.
Ince present.
Summerhays present.
First present.
McEwen here.
All 5 council members present. Thank you for being here and giving of your time. Thank you, staff that's present as well too, in addition to, like I said, the members of the public. Let's start with the legislative prayer or thought by Council Member Spencer Summerhays.
Just 2 thoughts this evening. One is a little more, I think, lighthearted but serious, because that's the message. And that is, we shouldn't ever take ourselves too seriously, except that we should take our jobs seriously as members of staff and council particularly. We're here doing the public's business, but hopefully we enjoy it. I'm sure we stress about many things as we go about our business, but hopefully we can do it in a way that is somewhat enjoyable and rewarding as we do it. So don't take ourselves too seriously or be afraid to make mistakes, as we're in some cases in talking about topics that we're not completely comfortable with or familiar with, and that's okay. We don't need to be experts at everything, and that's why we have councils. So that's my first thought, and the second thought would lead into, I don't know if other members of the council feel the same way, but I think this would be helpful for everybody here, and that is, I get home from a council meeting and my brain just continues to stew and stew, and for some reason I always have seems like I have a harder time falling asleep on council meeting nights because my brain just keeps on ruminating. And so I came across an article recently that talked about the number one sleep killer is you're kind of ruminating in bed. You're thinking about, oh, if I would have done this, or what are the things coming up on my task list, what do I do? And we have lots of obligations and responsibilities in our lives, but one of the suggested actions is to worry early in the day. Take 5, 10, 15 minutes and think about the things that you need to solve. You don't need to solve them necessarily, but creating a plan at least put your mind at rest and ease a little bit more as you can tackle those problems maybe at a later time. So hopefully those are practical thoughts for the council and members of the public tonight. Mayor, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Councilman Member Summerhays. If you'll all rise with me and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now it's time for the open session. This is an opportunity for members of the public to come forward and to express what's on their mind. We would just ask that you identify yourself and where you're from, and try and keep your comments to 2 to 3 minutes. We do not have any public hearings on any other we do on the final budget. So if you're talking about the budget of the city, you will have your time to take as much as you want there. But other than that, come forth and just, like I said, identify yourself and where you're from.
Hello, I am CJ Benson. I'm telling you, the city recorder, CJ Benson. Do you want my address? 1751 North, 2675 East, Layton, Utah. And I am with the Freedom Festival Foundation. Okay? All right. Like I said, my name's CJ Benson, and I'm with the Freedom Light Foundation. And it's a nonprofit foundation, and it's basically to help teach our children and some of our adults about the history of our nation. I feel very strongly about this. I feel that history has a tendency of repeating itself at times, and if we're ahead of the game, then we're ahead of life itself. And so this foundation is basically to teach, like I said, the history, Constitution, and liberty for our children. There was a bill passed, House Bill 179, and I think each of you have a copy of it. And basically, our governor said that he has proclaimed September as Founders and Constitution Month. And so every month for the last 16 plus years, we have put on a festival. It's called the Freedom Light Festival. And I don't know if any of you are aware, it happens in Bountiful. And it's September 17th, 18th, and 19th. And I hope I got those dates right.
This shows 14, 15, and 16.
Oh, okay, then that's it. That's what it is. I'm ahead of myself. Anyway, we have brought all these people together, and it is so fun. It's fun to take your kids. They have music, they have dancing, they have lots of history going on. For example, Benjamin Franklin goes around, and he looks like Benjamin Franklin. Well, what I perceive Benjamin Franklin looking like. Anyway, and he talks to the kids about what it was, what he did and what he was about. Joan of Arc, and it was a woman, and she talked to the children about what she did and why she did things. And there are so many things, like, for example, this year they're going to have a Statue of Liberty. Last year they had Ellis Island, and you had to walk through a long plank. I don't know if ever any of you have been to Ellis Island, but it was kind of the same thing. It was really interesting, and they talked about Ellis Island and what happened in Ellis Island. How many of your generation, your grandpas or great-great-grandfathers or your ancestors came through Ellis Island? Anybody? Yeah. I mean, these are things that you can go to this place and you can have a feeling of what it was about. This is what I'm asking of you. I'm asking, and I've got to read it because it's important. We would like to invite you to participate by making Freedom's Light Festival your Constitution Month event this year. Do you have an event already for September? This would be great to have it as your event. It would be very helpful to our success of this event if you would consider allowing this event to be announced on your website and newsletter, email, all of your social media. And I know that we could go to Parks and Rec, because I'm a commissioner on the Parks and Rec, and we are putting it out on our newsletter. Does your Parks and Rec put stuff out on your newsletter? Maybe I should ask Parks and Rec.
They can.
Okay, all right. So anyway, how do you feel about this? Is it something that you can get your brain around? Maybe I shouldn't ask, I don't know. Is that wrong?
As I told UCJ, we've been trying to get your group to present to COG as well, too.
Uh-huh.
And you must be going around to each one of the cities.
We are.
I think we have at least one of our residents on the board of this. And so, obviously, the bill that was passed, House Bill 179, declaring it Constitution Month, the Founders and Constitution Month.
Right.
I haven't read the bill in completeness, but it's obviously a great bill. But
Yeah.
so we'll just we got the information out there, and we'll see about getting it out to the people, and
Oh, you're wonderful.
that type of thing.
Thank you so much. This is something that, like I said, is near and dear. So, and I want it to be near and dear to all of you as well. And I know it is partly because you're sitting where you're sitting. So, thank you very much for your time. I probably went over.
So can you take a question or two?
Oh, yes, I'd love to.
So
Don't make it hard.
Thursday and Friday, this starts at 9 a.m. You're in the middle of the school day.
Okay, this is what happens. Let me tell you what happens. A lot of schools do bus their kids in and do field trips. And that's why we do it at that time. Okay, so that we can engage these schools that bring their field trips in. And so, but you know, kids that are kindergarten, they could come. Well, of course, now they're in all-day kindergarten, so. But yeah, that's why, because we have school children coming on field trips.
Okay.
Okay? Any other questions?
So Friday, it says 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. and but then there's another activity at 8 p.m. and another activity at 9 p.m.
It's singing, you know, the stage that they have in Bountiful, it'll be singing and different shows, you know.
Thanks, CJ, for all you're doing. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, you're great. I mean, I've been involved in city council too, and you're all very nice and welcoming, let me tell you. You are, thank you.
All right, open session still going. Any other comments on anything else? People are welcome to come up. Nothing online? Jennifer?
We have one person online, but they don't know if they want to.
All right, thanks. We'll move on from the open session, and let's head to our presentation part on the agenda. The first item on here is a pickleball fundraiser and batting cage discussion. We have Adam Alba, who's the chair of our Parks and Rec Committee here, and so Adam, tell us what's been going on.
Okay, Mayor, council members, thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Parks and Rec Committee to just give an update to the council members and the mayor about some of the fundraising efforts that the committee is working on for the pickleball and the batting cages courts over at Community Park. So the idea that we discussed was make donations easy for members of the public to do, and also to advertise the ability to donate, but then also perhaps have some perks that come with donations. And so what we have on the screen here is an example of a flyer that might get handed out at Community Park or at other events, city events, that has the donation levels that could come from individuals or families or entities. And the idea is that each donation level comes with a certain, I don't know if you want to call it a recognition or a perk, and these donations will help to pay for amenities at the pickleball courts and the batting cages. So for example, is there a second page, Jennifer? Yep. Yeah, there you go. So on the back of it, you might see, so if you want to do a bronze donation of $100, you can get name recognition on a sign at the park, and that sign would be, you know, laser etched on metal, something durable that could stay there at the park. And then it goes down for $250. You can have a banner at the park, and it wouldn't be just I think we're talking about not just a flimsy vinyl banner, but something a little more durable that could go on the gates, like a mesh that's printed, you know, like a windscreen or something like that, that looks kind of a little bit better than a vinyl sign. But those are the banners that are discussed there. So for $250, you get a certain size of banner, 300, 500 another size, $1,000 another one. And then for $2,000, you can get name recognition on a park bench. And my understanding is that, our understanding is that will basically pay for that park bench so you can get your name on the park bench. And then if you want to make a $5,000 donation, it can come with reservation rights. You might get your name on a granite sign. Some of this, this is kind of where we've settled right here. There might be a few little details that we adjust before this actually starts hitting the pavement, but this is what we've done for the pickleball. I imagine it will be something similar for the batting cages. Yeah, and the idea is that you can scan that QR code and it'll take you to the website and you can learn about these tiers and these donation levels and also find the way to make a convenient way to make the payment. Bryce, did I miss anything? And of course, Bryce has been of monumental importance in helping design this and instructing the committee members on what would work and what might not work. And Bryce would be the guy for really a lot of the logistics, details, questions.
So don't scan that QR code, doesn't go anywhere. So,
It goes to the
Just for
election
representations.
website.
yeah. The way we have it set up right now is the QR code would go to one of our fillable forms on our website and people would fill it out. And then I would contact them for their monetary donation. We don't have an easy way to collect payment and information. The Qualtrics component we talked about earlier would be a big component in that process if we were to proceed with that contract for stuff like this. So sorry, a little plug for that one. Sorry. Anyway, so that's where we're at right now. So.
Yeah, and one other thing too, I think if we get a QR code up and running, we might, I like the idea of putting up signs and banners at Community Park as soon as possible, so when people are there for soccer games or baseball games, they can.
Yeah, we'll do like a split one where we're gonna do half batting cage, half pickleball courts on one, same QR codes, because in the form I've created right now that on our website that will go live, it has a drop-down box of what you want to donate to, either batting cage, pickleball, or yeah, those two, I think. So anyway.
So just as another suggestion, it'd be great if we locate, even like an A-frame sign where the pickleball courts are going to go. So that, because when I look at this, I know where it's going, but.
So one of the ideas is to make a 4x6 banner with posts and a board that we would actually stick in the ground and put on site of where they're gonna go, in addition to the fencing around the ballpark. That makes sense. But yeah, great suggestion.
And then that chain link fence where we were always tearing down other signs by our pump station would be great. I'd rather have something that's city sponsored on there for once.
Everything on
I
there
get at
is
least
city
one phone
sponsored.
call a year from Councilmember Kuhn about that.
More than one.
Okay. I know the hand cart days is up there right
Luckily,
now,
Public
4th of
Works takes care of
July,
it for us.
and Little League football is on there right now. so. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if Adam mentioned this, sorry if you did. Also, they have discussed that there doesn't need to be a minimum, they'll take any donation, which, sorry.
And
So-
that might be on the website.
Yeah, so on the form, there's just a box that says what amount would you like to donate. We won't discriminate if somebody wanted to do $5 or $10 or whatever it may be. We have the $100 there as the starting point for your name on the sign.
Yeah.
Something we talked about in the meeting was making the sign a little more fun, and so we thought about maybe designing a giant pickleball paddle as the sign for the park, and so then putting people's names on that, just make it a little more, rather than just a boring plaque on the wall.
I do like Gina's idea of somehow putting on here that we're welcoming everything, because some people may look at that and think, I don't have $100.
So right
It
there,
does say
Does
it.
it down on the
left,
bottom?
we did add
All
that.
donation accepted.
We have the levels, but then we have all donations
Okay.
are accepted as well, so.
The thought I hadn't discussed at the meeting yet, but what about all donations could be recognized online? I don't know if that's sufficient, or maybe someone doesn't want to be recognized on, but at least, we could at least put a name online. I don't know. We
Yeah.
don't have to disclose an amount or anything, but if it doesn't meet the $100, maybe they can at least have a name online.
Yeah,
Just do it the same way they do like Pioneer Theater. 0 to 100, 500 to 1,000, and then you put everyone's name and they just fit inside that category.
We could say 100 or less, I guess, on that
Yeah, you just say
category.
0 to 100, or 1 to 100 is you put the names in there.
Yeah, and we could change that on there. And on the second page, I could just have it in the text.
So at what donation level do you come mow their lawn?
Good question. I did get my first $100 donation just a few seconds ago, so,
Awesome.
yeah.
So, I have a question. You have on these brochures, the fundraiser goal. How did you decide what amount, and do you want to put an amount, or do you just want to put pickleball fundraiser?
We talked about that. We talked about maybe one of those representations of like, I don't know what they're even supposed
Like
to
a
represent.
thermometer or
thermometer,
something
you know,
that hits the
but
levels.
I don't think we ever finalized that, and we never settled on a specific amount. that we
I just
wanted to
figured
get.
because there was gonna be 8 courts, if we got $5,000 sponsors, that's 40,000. That's just the number I came up with, but
So what is the 40,000 get you
what do you mean?
in terms of like amenities?
So we're looking at like shade structures, we're looking at, the benches, we're looking at drinking fountain, we're potentially looking at a bathroom if we get
So
enough
this money
donations.
isn't going towards the courts at all?
Amenities for the courts.
Amenities
provided.
The pickleball holders is one of the things
Yeah,
that you
pickleball
can name mentioned, yeah.
But what I'm thinking is more people would be willing to donate to, I mean, I've had people say, if you'll put the courts, I'll give you money. I'm not sure that they care so much about the amenities as they want the courts and they want them
Well,
built.
I think the courts are funded, right? Like,
Are they
The court-
funded?
The courts are funded.
Yeah, you have to have
Have help on
amenities
the
for
other
the
stuff.
courts. You gotta have
Okay.
benches.
I thought we were still trying to get funding for the courts, so I'm one step behind everybody,
But
sorry.
what would be,
And I maybe didn't make that clear, but.
The funding we have is.
Just said they're
in the
funded.
budget, but for probably for the court, the net, the lighting, as opposed to benches, paddle holders.
Right, okay, see,
signage.
I didn't realize
Year-round
that.
restroom would be a huge
yeah,
thing.
a bathroom would be amazing.
gonna be more than
Yeah, it's gonna be-
40,000.
Well, it's gonna be, yeah.
Okay, I'm on board.
but I think it'd kind of be helpful if you do also show where you're at, like on your thermometer, what are you if you only hit 20,000, what is that, what does the community get for that? So if there is somebody who really wants the bathroom or whatever, I would hate for them to think that they're getting that at 20,000, they need to know how far up the ladder that is to get to that point.
I'll sponsor a toilet.
You could do the thermometer thing, maybe do it online and have, you could say, at this point, we're gonna get 8 benches. At this point, we're gonna be able to add this, and if we get this much, we'll add the
So
bathroom.
you're saying prioritize those amenities and that's what it gets you?
I
Yeah.
mean, that's just one thought.
Describe
Just
what the amendment.
Just so you can see if you don't get above 5,000, well, okay, what does 5,000 actually get you?
Green camp chairs.
And if it's like, here are some really nice paddle holders and that's all we can get, that would be nice to know what you can get funded.
Yeah, I think that is a good idea to maybe try and prioritize it.
Just what level of amounts will get what.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can work on that.
Because like at Island View Park, for example, there are no pickleball specific amenities. There's no benches,
Right.
there's no.
Right, oh, I totally agree.
I'm not
I
saying
still
that
just
those-
thought we were
I don't-
coming up with a match,
I'm
so
not
I
saying,
was,
yeah,
Yeah, I mean. with
and that may be an
some-
idea is, as a council, maybe we discuss part of the money that's allocated, the community knows that there's a match on from them as taxpayers, but essentially it's funding, so.
Any other comments?
You're missing something on your email, centervilleutah.gov, just to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Centerville, Utah.
You get, yeah, thanks, appreciate that.
Are you coming back to
Spelled your
us
name
on
correctly.
batting cage discussion, or is that
It's in a
for another
similar,
time?
it's in the same category. We're fundraising for that. We have the $8,000 from Rocky Mountain.
Yeah.
But we've gotten the bids back for the concrete and they're in the $15,000, $16,000 range. So that's why we wanted to kind of partner these all together so that people could know that there was multiple projects going on at the same time. So,
So during our concessions season, we generally plow all that back into the baseball program. We try, right? Generally, that's been in the past. That's what we've done with the concessions funds, is that gets plowed back into there. An option might be is that they can plus up right there. So if they want to do a roundup to get that money as a donation, because that's easy cash to get when somebody's buying sweets and they can round up.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just trying to figure out how it would work in the system.
Right, you're
Nate's
taking
dying a
the
little
software
inside back there,
system?
trying to figure out how to make that
Yeah,
work.
I have a hard enough
How-
time with
how
some
do
of
we-
my kids just
yeah, how do we take
making the
payment?
numbers count at the end of the
Yeah, I was gonna
night.
say,
Let alone
how do we,
have the
how do we
math.
take payment at concessions?
We do credit cards and we run through our rec software. I don't.
On a
I could
percentage
reach out to them and
basis?
see if there's a button that lets them increase, but then we'd have to, that increase would have to be assigned to a GL code, or we could
Correct.
break it out
Yeah,
at the night.
yeah.
So,
But you could do that. Just don't make it say tip, just, round up people's.
Right.
yeah. The other
Or
thing
if
that's
it
on
doesn't
that,
work to round up, I mean, if you're standing there and you're like, oh yeah,
Would you
you
like
can
to
put
give
an extra
$5
$5. Yeah,
for
that might be
batting
simpler
cages?
with your system to just
Whatever,
say.
because what software do we use?
Civic Rec.
Okay.
And there's people willing to say, hey, if there's a specific, I always call it the band candy. Hey, if there's the candy bar that's $5, and I know that 90% of the proceeds are going to the cages or whatever, I will buy that and then throw it away.
Yeah.
Because you want to eat that band candy. It's horrible. But-
On that form, there's a selection for batting cage, pickleball courts, scoreboards, and use on that form. So I wanted to hit all four at the same time, because we're getting a lot of feedback for some scoreboards at Community Park for amenities. So we wanted to kind of hit them all at the same time. So anyway, any other thoughts, great suggestions?
Very good.
Awesome.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for sharing that. Hey, do you have a full committee right now, Adam? Okay.
No, he's short one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Melissa rotated off. Her
All right.
term's done.
Yeah, but that was fairly recent, right?
Yes, I mean, it's like this month.
I'll work on that then.
Thanks.
All righty, thank you. All right, let's go to the business items. Number one on the business items, this was tabled from a couple of weeks ago. This is a long process, starting in March as council members, but starting for staff probably in January. So this is the culmination tonight of this budget and putting it up for vote. So Nate?
All right, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. I'll be brief with my comments tonight as we discuss this at length in prior meetings. I just wanted to go over a couple changes that we've had since our last meeting a couple weeks ago. The first change is that our elections budget has been reduced to 18,000. So it was 35, we reduced it to 18, and that's because we no longer have the need for a primary election this year. Our next change is regarding Utopia. Originally, we thought we were going to receive somewhere in this, I can't remember off the top of my head, about $76,000 from Utopia as the distribution or the rebate. Utopia had their board meeting, they passed their budget, so they will now be sending us $146,202.
Way to go, Councilor Mika. Woo-hoo.
What changed? Because we didn't know if they were gonna change their mind.
Councilor Meekum changed their mind, single-handedly.
But they might like to throw me off, but other than that, things are going well.
Sounds like me in the direction.
So that doesn't impact our general fund, that's our RDA budget that pays for that, but that does free up, again, that funding. for
Because we
the
had that
project.
transfer, yeah.
So that's great.
Brad told me you were a bulldog at one of those meetings, so.
Every once in a while, I misbehave.
So we've already finalized our RDA budget, but we will only transfer over that amount. Probably
Did you
have
quote
a
them did you quote them our uptake rate? Is that the lever you used?
No.
Okay, just curious.
You know me. They want me to shut up, so they finally give me what I want. Council Meekum will quit butting in, we'll give you whatever you want. No, it was not me. There was they did get a lot of pressure on.
Sorry, Nate.
From both boards, they got a lot of.
Yeah, from both boards, they got a lot of pressure, and they would have liked to have gotten away with it, but they didn't.
That's good news.
Yes, because the money's there and they're reinvesting, but they need to pay back.
There's the balance of the future of Utopia and investing in that future, but also making sure we take care of, the investment, the original investment. And so I think that's what they're trying to figure out. Utopia is trying to strike that balance of the future, and so we're just helping them. Don't forget about the
Yeah,
original
sometimes they
investment.
have to have a little nudge. Bountiful is going Utopia,
I heard that.
but they're gonna own
A
it.
different structure, their own.
They're gonna own their own infrastructure.
What else, Nate?
And then the final change is just regarding our property tax. So we received our certified tax rate from the county auditor's office. And that tax rate is .001259, which would generate $2,266,751 dollars in property tax revenue. And this is quite a bit more than what we had planned previously, which is good news. Again, that's the property tax is the second resolution that you have before you tonight. So the first is the budget, the second is setting the tax rate. And just to go over some procedures around that, we have until June 22nd to set that rate unless we are going for a increase, which would require a truth and taxation hearing. So if we decide to go that rate, we would also need to set the date and time for that hearing. But in this budget is not being proposed as it stands right now.
So in the budget, as it stands now, are you saying that we're at the 1247 or we're going to be at the 1259?
It's at 1259 right now. Yeah, 1247 was the current fiscal year.
Correct. I just wanted to make that clarification on a nominal versus a rate percentage basis. Yeah.
And then the only other thing I would like to add is that if the council has any changes they would like to make to the budget, we ask that if you remember, there's admin transfers from our enterprise funds to our general fund. So anytime we make these little changes, there's a trickle-down effect. So if you have any changes to this budget, please include in the motion something to allow me to adjust those.
Change it $200 somewhere, and then Nate has to spend more than that to fix that in his staff time.
So anyway, that's my one request.
That is a
but-
challenge. Takes time.
Yes. So anyway, staff recommends that we adopt both final budget and then set the 2023 real and personal property tax rate for the general fund at.
Can you go through the final property tax numbers?
Yeah. What would you like to know? So the total amount is the $2,266,751.
That's at the 1259 mill rate.
Okay.
What further detail would you like?
What did we have in the budget originally?
We had, let me pull up the tentative budget here.
Do you want me, I can say what it is. The tentative was 2,225,500. Is that the number you wanted?
Yes, thank you. And that's at what, and what does our property tax rate come out at?
Sorry, say that again?
What does the property tax rate come out at,
The new one or the old one?
the new one?
That's the 12.
.001259.
Yeah, that's the 12.
That's the 1259, okay. Can we,
Jennifer, can
can
you
you
scroll down?
scroll down to those pages?
What page?
See something?
It's on the page 8, but on the PDF page, it'd be probably 12. It's that top line.
So this is the old number, right?
So in the,
There was the tentative versus the adopted.
yeah, so you have the amended budget for fiscal year '23, which shows the amount that we received this fiscal year. In the department request and the tentative budget is what I had estimated that we would receive.
Okay,
Because again, we lost some due to animal control becoming its own taxing entity, but then we have new growth. So that was my estimate, was the 2.225. And then when we received the certified amount from the county. The actual amount is what you see in the
You raised it to
adopted budget.
41,000.
41,251.
All right, so just for information, we had $62,239 worth of new growth is where that, a lot of that difference comes in.
So it basically equaled what we lost to animal control, a slight difference, but
Yeah, so about $9,000 more than what we lost from animal control.
do you have a summary of the property tax rates? One that you presented earlier that updated?
Yeah, I can go grab that if you want.
I'd like to see it. I probably should be able to remember it, but
Yeah, I've gone back.
About
have
the
one
line
that-
graph we used in the past and last year.
so I'd like to see where this leaves us. I'm
Again,
sorry
our
to
high
be
was at 17 something, so we're still, and that was in 19.
Is the graph,
So I guess I have not updated that one. I should have.
is the graph in the previous year's budget packet?
It was in last year's
2020.
budget.
What graph are we?
The one I do have
It's the
updated.
line graph that shows the
2016 through
history.
220.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about, Bill. I can't remember if it was
17?
part of the first initial pages of last year's budget.
1470.
It was part of your budget presentation last year. Nate.
Just search property tax history in your civic clerk, will bring up that chart.
I'm sorry?
Searching for?
If you search property tax
Property tax
history,
history.
What meeting is it?
just search, put in the search bar, history in civic clerk. Property tax rate history.
The mistake on that, it wasn't at 17, it was at
And then
14.
it's the,
So this first one?
but this is 2016 through 2020. It might
Right.
be- That'll give you an idea.
There's one that was,
So that one.
Oh, inflation, that's the inflation.
Is that not what we want? Property tax rates in Utah?
It's that one, I think. The one you're just, no, the one you're just on.
Oh, this one?
yeah, that
bottom
one.
there.
I think that's one you're looking for. Is that the
Yeah,
one you're
so
looking
this
for?
goes
Bill?
back to,
Yeah, but I thought we had one that was updated. This only goes through 2019.
yep. Well, so this goes through.
Goes back to 2003, yes, but it doesn't include the past 2 years.
Doesn't have the last,
Yeah, it doesn't have the huge ramp over the last couple of years.
So
Well,
last,
you can figure it out because we're at 12.5 now, 12.59.
and last year was at 12.47.
You've got your 12.75, so you can look across and see about where it would be.
You're near the rate of 2007, what the rate was in 2007. And I would suspect there's a little bit, and this is pure speculation on my part, but property values have taken a little bit of a dip, and then your rate goes up due to that as well. Because I don't think new growth would account for that entire increase,
Correct.
No.
but I do feel property values have decreased.
But when you said 62,000 new
I don't know
growth,
that that's true. Property taxes on the upper end, or property values on the upper end above about 700,000, yes. Property values in the 300,000 to 600,000 have not gone down. Not based on information I have. And since I happen to be actively in the market at the moment, happens to be near and dear,
You've done a lot of research in that area.
yes.
they just got to go over 700,000 then.
Well,
Does this answer your question,
I'm,
Councilman Ince? What Jennifer's pulling up?
This is the 10-year.
well, I'd like to see it. I'd have liked to have seen it updated. Yeah, I mean, I can
Oh,
put it in
through this year,
mentally,
yeah.
but I'd like to see it updated.
Try to update it. Give me a few minutes. I
You
don't
can
know.
knock it out in 5 minutes?
Maybe.
Public hearing?
Trying to remember what other questions we had.
We'll just keep this in mind for every budget, regardless of the property tax increase, part of the
Pardon
presentation.
me?
We'll keep this as part of the presentation in every.
Yeah, I think it's good to
regardless.
see that history for the public as part of the packet on a go-forward
I do too.
basis.
It's my fault, I apologize.
Okay,
So the other two line items, Nate, again, are the primary, and then the second item that you discussed was
The Utopia
Utopia.
distribution.
Yep. Which went from what amount to what amount?
It went from,
70 something up to 146.
let me find it.
We're gonna be robbed into negotiations from this point forward.
Grant gave me way too much credit on that one.
So in the tentative budget, I had 74,952. And our final number is 146,202.
Which is slightly more than what we received this year. I believe it was 139.
135, 136.
136, so you saw an increase. Which again, our bond payment increases a percentage each year, so it covers that increase. So it keeps our,
Yeah, so our payment, how do I want to word it? The city funds, not including the rebate, virtually stay the same.
That just is, again, that's just a reduction of our general fund transfer
from the RDA.
from the RDA, correct? Yeah,
But again, we'll have a future conversation on what to do with those RDA funds.
correct. Yeah.
Or leave them, because there's opportunities to continue to pay this bond with those funds in the future.
can you go back and cover for me again? So we're not gonna do a property tax increase. We were still somewhat up in the air over that, but what were our fee increases? So we've got,
Just ACE disposal,
No, just waste management.
Oh, yes, those fees. Yeah, just
well, we got
the
waste
sanitation.
management with sanitation, and we've got, drainage, right?
We did not increase drainage.
no.
Not
Nor
yet.
drainage nor streets, because we were having the wait and see period to see how the judicial process would play out on fees, as I recall. it.
Road tax.
Yeah.
Correct.
Whether you can
We're
assess
gonna
it
wait and
as
see for
a,
at least 1 year, I'd
Yeah.
say 1 year, and we'll reevaluate.
to see how that plays out, right?
Right.
So there were no others besides that.
Okay.
Next year's.
So I've got the property tax rates, if you want to just
We're all
continue
right.
this
We
chart
watched
in
the
your
video.
mind.
Nate and I
So
watched
for
the YouTube.
2021, it was 001197, so just go up a little bit from 1158. Then it was 001247, is slightly up. And then for 2023, we are at 001259. So you're still below that, see the 1275? So you're just slightly halfway up that other arc on the upswing.
Thank you.
You're below 2018.
Right.
Mayor or Lisa, because we tabled this and left the public hearing open, we don't need to open it to the public? How do we?
Yeah, we'll have you can have a public hearing, because you left it.
But it's still open.
But it's still open. I was just procedurally, what,
I was gonna ask,
do you need a motion, I guess? is-
what I was looking at
Don't need a
is,
motion to go into.
no,
That's what I
it's
thought.
when we were done asking Nate questions, I was gonna say, it's a public hearing, it's open, and
Okay,
so
yeah.
the public can comment or ask for your closure, but I was just letting you get your questions asked of Nate. So, we good?
Yep.
Right now? Okay. Okay, so, Nate, did you have more? Did I cut you off? So like I was saying, this, as from 2 weeks ago, we left the public hearing open. During that time, I guess, any comments could come in, right, during the past 2 weeks? Have we seen anything come in at all? Okay. So, public can still comment. The public hearing is open for the fiscal year 2024 final budget. Any members of the public that want to comment?
motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we're back to final questions before I look for, we got to approve the budget and we got to approve the tax rate. That's 2023-14, 2023-16.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2022-15.
2023-14.
23, there's a typo on that resolution, just FYI.
That would be me. Where's
Okay.
that?
It's on the actual document
And is it
itself.
2015 or 20, on the recommendation,
Is that wrong there too?
it's saying 14
Okay, hang on.
on the staff
I'll go back.
recommendation.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023-15?
Are we 15 or 14?
14.
And, well, are we setting the,
Well, we can adopt by title.
I
The
was
fiscal
gonna-
24
You have
budget,
two of
right?
them, so on the staff.
are we
that's
setting
what I'm
the
trying to
property
figure out.
tax rate first?
Well, there's, on the staff report, and maybe Lisa's looking at
Oh,
this
she's
real
got
quick.
14 and
14 and 16, but the
Okay,
actual,
Right, 14 is the final budget and 16 is the real and
so
personal.
what was 15?
Okay, so are,
Did we, what, is there a reason
No,
why
so
we
it
skipped
appears
them?
to be accurate.
Yeah.
That was you.
part is accurate.
Which one is accurate? Because I don't see a 15. I don't know which one 15
We
is.
give our resolutions the date when they were
15
drafted
is-
because we never know when they're going to be adopted, so we just leave them at the date of,
This is
in
my
order.
fault. I
think
looked back at
15
last
was one
year's
that was
when we were
approved.
looking,
Yeah,
this is my fault. Just
15 was
ignore,
the
I don't think
judge's
there's
salary.
You looked at last year's
Yeah,
resolution.
I pulled
Yeah,
up,
that's
I-
right.
yeah,
So we
sorry.
did
Okay.
the budget, the
Judge's
judges,
salary.
the tax rate.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
already adopted 15.
I
Right,
apologize.
got it.
Did we
Right.
finalize? Does it have to
Yes,
be-
we did we
We did
finalized
the
it.
RDA last meeting.
Okay, so
Okay,
finish your motion,
I'll finish
Councilman.
it. Hang on, I'm pulling it up again to make sure I'm not reading the wrong one. I'm
Ken,
sorry,
like
thank you.
Councilman McEwen
I'll
says,
make a
do.
motion that we approve resolution number 2023-14, adopting the fiscal year 2024 final budget. Do you want me to?
Second.
We have a
Okay,
motion and a second on that. Further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Councilman
Aye.
Meekum.
Aye.
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 The motion passes unanimously. So now the second motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-16, setting the 2023 real and personal property tax rate for the general fund at 0.001259.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Further discussion on that? If not, we'll start with Councilman Ince going to the right.
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously as well. Thank you, Nate, for all your hard work.
Mayor and Nate, before you sit down, I think what may also be helpful for the public in the future is not only the graph, but also you've provided a table as to where our tax rate sits in relation to other communities in Davis County.
That's the one I have updated right now.
Okay, so I think
that would be
that would be
nice.
helpful for the public to see as part of the budget going forward.
Yeah, and I'll comment on that we're,
Comparisons aren't always perfect, and we shouldn't live by comparison, but it's
helpful.
it's helpful, yes. Thanks.
so, of course, all the cities are going through what we're going through right now.
So we never
Setting
know
the-
where they're gonna land.
Right, so we don't know all of them. We know a couple are going through the truth and taxation process. If it stays where it's at right now, then we're, I believe, 7 out of 15, from highest to lowest. But again, I don't know what other cities are doing, so that could vary a little bit.
To me, that's one that should be on the website anyway, all year round. So when we get the numbers, we should just put it up there.
I can put it on.
I think that would be
I
good.
think that's smart.
Made a note of that? All right, thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to item number 2. This is the public utility easement for Joshua and Cynthia Larson at 40 South 400 East. Lisa?
Yes, thank you. As a condition of building permit approval for a parcel development, the homeowners Joshua and Cynthia Larson are required to dedicate some public utility easements on 3 sides of their lot. So we're just requesting the city council to accept this public utility easement, subject to review of the legal description by the city engineer. We just want to double check. As mentioned in the staff report, this easement has already been recorded by the applicant, so if the legal description is accurate, we also request that you ratify that recording, which typically we are required to accept things before they're recorded in our favor, so. But the easement itself is acceptable, so I think it's fine.
Lisa, did we get a actual plan description of that meets and bounds, legal description, so that we see where it's at on the parcel?
We usually do request that, and we can, yes, that's a good
I
point.
just didn't
We-
see that, I just saw the
Right,
legal
we
description
usually get a
as part of
plot
the
drawing of the easement, so we can request
recordation.
that as well, perhaps to attach, but it would have to be a separately recorded attachment. I don't know if
Correct.
you want to you just want it for the file?
It would have been nice to see, I don't know that it's a requirement, but it's helpful to see it on the parcel itself.
Okay.
A little easier to visualize than it meets in.
Correct. I know from the public standpoint, it's an additional cost, and I don't know if the recorder's office required them to do that anyway, if they're recording that in favor of the city, but
Yeah, it would have to either be an amendment or an attachment, so maybe if
Yeah.
this one, we could just have it in the
and
file.
they may, yeah, and the public we may require of them to ensure that that's actually where the legal description's at, because without a surveyed plan that matches the legal, how do we know that it is where it is?
Yeah, it's a convenience for us. It's not required. Many documents are just recorded with a legal description without that drawing.
Except that it's in our favor, and so I just want to make sure that,
I see what you mean.
yeah, if it was with some other parties, I don't think we'd care, but if it's in our favor, we'd want to make sure that it matches, if that makes sense.
Motion to accept the public utility easement of property located at 480 South, 400 East, subject to the verification of the legal description by the city engineer.
Second.
Motion a second, further discussion? Let's vote. Councilman Summerhouse starts.
Aye.
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 Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're moving to item number 3. This is as a municipal code amendment in relation to stormwater. Cameron, are you going to tell us about that? Or is Lisa going to tell us about it? I assume that's why you're here, because you wanted to talk.
Good response.
Let's see, we did three main things in there. One, all of it's just to kind of be up to snuff with state requirements. First being the maintenance agreements that's required for parcels over an acre, which ensures that people are taking care of their oil water separators and treatment devices on their properties. It's a state requirement. We're just adopting that into our ordinance. We've included some of the state language for the different types of permitting for construction. There's the general permit, the common plan permit, and then the city, we have our own little permit for stuff that's not covered by the state for stormwater protection for construction. And then, what was the third one?
Yeah, that, and adding the LID requirements.
Yes, that's it.
Long-term stormwater maintenance.
So all three, we did update our city one a little bit, but the three of those are all come from the state and federal government that we're just adopting into our standards and ordinances.
So these are fairly comprehensive amendments, and I did want to thank Cameron for bringing these to our attention and making sure that, I think twofold, that, we're coming into compliance with state requirements, but Cameron also highlighted that what was in our code wasn't really the way we were doing it, or that was the most practical way to do it. So we've made a lot of those changes to make sure that it's practical and efficient, so I appreciate that initiative.
So that leads me to my question. It looked like most of the substantive red line changes were in 1603 and 4. Are most of those copy paste from the state code? Or how much of, I guess the better question is, how much of the red lines here are city driven versus state or even NPDES driven?
Yes, mainly we look to our UPDES permit from the state, so that's a lot where they came from, not necessarily the code, but our permit, which has been updated. So there were a lot more record-keeping requirements and enforcement requirements and inspection requirements that are in the permit that we didn't have in our code. So we just kind of mirrored those in our code as well so that we can enforce those. And I also want to say we had a committee that helped us with this that's mentioned in the staff report. So thanks to the Public Works and city engineer as well that was on that committee. So it's been a few months. We were just waiting to get through the social media policy and finalize this one.
Social media got in the way of
Yeah.
drainage and stormwater.
Slowed this one down a little bit.
Seriously.
Thanks, Cameron. Any questions for Cameron? Or Lisa? All right, so what we have here is, we do have an ordinance to approve here.
I'll make a motion that we can update, not just consider, but adopt ordinance number 2023-09, updating and amending various provisions of Title 16 of the municipal code regarding stormwater permits, LID requirements, and long-term stormwater facilities maintenance obligations.
Second.
Motion and second, further discussion? Seeing none, Councilwoman Hurst, going to my right.
Aye.
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 That passes unanimously. Thanks, Cameron, for bringing those to their attention, and thanks, Lisa, for the legal work on it. All right, let's go to item number 4. This is personnel policies amendments regarding bereavement leave. Brent and Lisa worked on this. Brent, do you want to talk about it, or Lisa?
I'd love to.
Okay, go ahead. She's one that volunteers.
I think I was directed, but
Well, we coordinated before you asked the question. And
Wait, Brent said coordinated. Lisa said directed.
well, thank you. We have some personnel policy amendments regarding bereavement leave. And as you know, a few months ago, we adopted bereavement leave in the event an employee loses a child through stillbirth or miscarriage. That was required by state law. And we've had a lot of employees, over the past year, over time, lose family members and, realize that we don't actually have bereavement leave for the loss of an immediate family member. We do allow them to use some of their long-term sick leave, but that's accrued leave that they already have. And so employees and even department heads are kind of surprised when we say we don't have paid leave for the death of an immediate family member. So we're proposing up to 3 paid days of leave for the loss of an immediate family member, similar to the leave that the state just adopted for miscarriage or stillbirth, as well as this appears to be consistent with what other governmental entities provide. So I did look as a major example to the state of Utah, and I just went to their bereavement leave policy. I thought they had a good definition of immediate family. This is one area that if you want to revise that, but essentially their definition is whether the employee's immediate family or their spouse's immediate family. And our idea is that, if your spouse loses a parent or a sibling, it's helpful for you to be there as well, and it's just as devastating for the whole family. So that's why both for the employee's loss or their spouse's loss of an immediate family, including spouse, parent, sibling, child, and then I like this, any level of grandparent. So if you actually have a great-grandparent, and any level of grandchild. So if you have a great-grandchild. And this does include in-laws, step relatives, and then the state says, or equivalent relationship. And then to that, we also thought, in looking at our definition of immediate family in our long-term sick leave, that we did say anyone for whom the employee is a legal guardian. So I think that that's helpful to bring from our policy. I believe the state of Utah covers that because they have a section where management has some discretion to, consider additional alternatives. I think that In terms of our policy, I like to be fairly objective, so management isn't making those discretionary decisions, that it's the same for everyone. So that's my recommendation. That's why I did not pull forward the management discretion from the state law. But obviously with the state system, it's a very large system, maybe different scenarios. But anyway, I just want to be objective in our policy. So again, we're recommending up to 3 days of paid bereavement leave for the death of an employee or their spouse's immediate family. And also leaving in the option to use up to 5 days of an employee's already accrued long-term sick leave, and revising that definition so we don't have varied definitions. So we're certainly open to the council reconsidering the definition of immediate family, but I think these are reasonable and would go a long way in helping employees be able to grieve the loss of a loved one, because it is can be devastating.
So I asked Brent this, I'm gonna ask you as well too. It seems like we keep adding layer, not just in the city, but in society as general, layers on leave. So what's your thought of this? You have vacation, then you have PTO, paid time off, just covering things like sickness, bereavement, all that. How come we keep adding categories? And I think that somebody should obviously go to a funeral of a loved one, but, so it's more a discussion of why do we keep adding categories rather than just having it all under paid time off, I mean, from a legal standpoint?
Yeah, it's probably more of a policy issue than a legal issue. You could go to just, straight PTO, or, from my standpoint, being involved in when we did go from vacation and all-purpose rather than sick leave, was sort of providing these different incentives, because we do want employees to take time off to be, healthy and have a good mental outlook. But if they're sick, we want them to stay home. So that was sort of the discussion many, many years ago, maybe decades, of why we did want to, in Centerville, we wanted to keep them separate. They have different incentives, and, wanting employees to be able to have that sick leave and not feel like they have to save it and come to work sick. So those are some thoughts, but certainly there's a lot of different ways to approach leave, and we can look at that in a more holistic manner. For some of these leaves, like funeral leave and other things, we usually break those out because they don't occur to every employee. Or, it may be over their career at the city they will use this, but it may come just kind of like jury duty or other things. So we do have some of these other categories that are not a guarantee, but it may occur, and so we want to provide for that.
So I just went through this with an employee because the state rule actually reads rather weird, and it says may grant at least 3 days of bereavement. Mm-hmm. And that was misinterpreted by an employee to they can take more time off. So the issue that I have with this is you've got bereavement at 3 days, and then you've got funeral at 5. Are those stacking, or is that 5 total days? How is that interpreted under policy?
Yeah, so
Because
they would be in addition, so you'd get 3 pay up to, and I thought somebody might ask about that, but yeah, so this one says not at least, I said up to, following the other state statute, but, and then in addition, would, if the employee wanted to use the 5 days of their long-term sick.
So they could be gone for 8 days.
For a
But they're
great
using, but they're
grandfather.
only using 3. They have to dip into,
Right, their
for the
own.
other 5 days,
Right.
Or
for,
they could do 5 and spend
Sick.
2. You see, this is to your question, Mayor. One of the issues for employers who have a graying workforce is you tend to have a lot of people who are going to use this. So if the expectations aren't well understood by the employees, you get this problem of, well, I'm going to take 8 days for a funeral, or I'm going to take 5, or I'm going to take 3 because it's just grandpa, right, or something like that. And so where it becomes a problem for the managers is if you don't have an established standard, then you've got this huge abuse problem, and then it becomes not just a bereavement issue for the employee, the entire team suffers because you don't know how long that person's going to be out unless you've got it set in policy that says, in this case, 5 is the funeral leave, but if they're saying it's 5 plus 3, then the max that employee is going to be out is 8. But you take like our police department, where they don't have a lot of extra employees around. If you have a bereavement situation, it really creates an impact on the
But I
department.
could use, what would prevent me from using vacation, and I'm out 10 days, or I'm out 12
Well,
days?
I can tell you categorically at the state, it's 3 days, unless you're otherwise authorized by your manager.
So I will share that if, you know, my mother passes away, I'm not out 3 days, right? I'm planning a funeral.
No, and
I'm
that's-
coordinating, and I'm doing this. So the 3 days will generally take everybody travel to, attend, and travel back, right? But there are gonna be these extenuating
There
circumstances
are-
that they
yeah,
could tap
exactly.
into their long-term sick if they have to, right? But that's, not all employees have long-term sick leave in a bank because whether they've had surgery or anything like that. So we have an employee out leave without pay to attend a funeral. And so the bereavement leave is available to them.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with bereavement leave, and I'll give you a real case example. We have an employee whose, father passed away in India. There's no way you get to India and back in 3 days. But they went for a month, and they didn't tell us they were going for a month. They planned on 2 weeks, and then it took a month.
Well, it's a different conversation as management that you have to address that situation.
Well, what I'm saying is that you're trying to time box your employee into understanding how long they're gonna be out because you're placing a burden on everybody else.
The question, I think what you're really asking is, can an employee, regardless of the type of leave they're selecting, are you suggesting that there should be a restriction on the consecutive days taken? Because what if you have accrued multiple vacation days and you decide to take a month-long cruise? Are you going to tell them no?
Well, that's the problem is that it is an issue that you do open up some potential abuse in the policy,
But is
and it makes it really hard.
that abuse?
Well, and our policies
depends.
do address the month, so leave, if it's scheduled leave, you do have to get approval from your department head, and certain leave over a number of time, then it has to go to either the city manager, so month-long, has to go through a program. But the funeral or the death of a family member would fall under our emergency, where you wouldn't have to, notify in advance. You could actually use, some of your leave, but again, within reason.
And maybe to George's point, somebody says, well, I'm going to take 3 bereavement days, I'm going to take 5 of 6 days, and then I'm going to take 5 more vacation days. So that's something that maybe, again, does that fit within that policy procedure where we say, hey, you're going to be gone for X number of days regardless of the type of leave you're selecting? That needs to be coordinated.
Right, because you do place a burden on everybody else in an
Correct.
understaffed organization.
Yeah.
You do, but also processing death as an individual circumstance and how you process that. If it's a child of mine, I'm out a year. I don't know. You know what I mean?
No, I get that.
It's a different process. So I get that there's a burden, and that's a case by case, but I don't want to become so restrictive that it restricts us from having some flexibility with the individual circumstance.
No, and it's not meant to be punitive and say, well, we don't think you liked your grandmother that much, you only get 3 days. But what you are saying is that there are some expectations that if you're gonna be gone longer than policy, 7 or 5, or, add the 2 basic categories together, call that, the 8. If you're gonna be gone more than 8 days, you need to be coordinated with the organization beyond that. You just can't say, I'm taking off on bereavement, then start stacking
No,
on
and I'm
other
not
leave.
opposed to that. Being out a month or 2 weeks is definitely a burden, you're right. And it should be
But it
addressed
shouldn't
a
be
case by
prohibited
case.
in my mind.
I'm not saying prohibitive, but the policy doesn't have any kind of
Correct.
escape for that.
It doesn't have a collar
Right.
around it, is what I think you're
Yeah.
getting at. And I don't disagree with that point. Brand, from a leave perspective, an accrual of sick and vacation hours, do those roll in the city, in our policy?
No, so, I mean, I don't want to get too much into the benefits, but the way that we do our vacation, all-purpose and long-term sick is a little different than I'm accustomed to. And there are varying categories, and I would like to visit how we do that. You use or lose at the end of the year. I believe it's 240 hours for vacation.
So they don't roll?
No, they don't roll over.
Can't you roll a certain amount?
Yeah, up to a certain point.
You can roll up to, I think you can roll up to the
So I
240
can give
hours.
flexibility
Long-time sick pay comes out.
that if you're maxed out, and I have flexibility to approve use of that vacation 2 months or so into the following year. So if December 31st, they're going to be over 30 hours, so it's use or lose. and they have a vacation plan in January, because again, that's kind of slower time for us, I'll approve them to use that 30 hours no later than 2/28.
Or they work in the streets department, and they've been plowing all winter.
Correct.
You know, it accommodates that, so yeah.
Well, I have some flexibility to allow that to extend into the year.
But to answer Spencer's question, we do roll over a certain amount, don't we?
No, we amended our policies a few years ago, and, well, many years ago, and
cap it.
capped it.
Again,
Capped
so
it.
our cap is pretty low compared to other cities.
But you
What is
roll
the cap?
something up
What is
to
that?
the cap.
Okay. So you can keep 240 hours.
240, yeah, you can roll
Right,
over
that's what I
240.
was
over
saying,
that,
you
you're
can roll
losing.
over the
Yeah, so
200.
you're talking about, yeah, there's a cap of
Thought I was
240.
crazy for a minute. Yes.
What about the sick leave? Can they keep accruing that?
That's where it gets complicated. Again, this is a little off topic, but the all-purpose is cashed out at the end once you max all-purpose.
What, when you say all-purpose, is that vacation or is that?
Sick.
That's sick,
It's
okay.
meant to be sick, but it's all-purpose, which can be used for vacation. Now, again, the idea of revisiting this is not to take benefits away from the employees, but to clean it up to me, because you're incentivizing employees to not use all-purpose, and they might be getting mad at me, but you're incentivized to use vacation when you're sick, so you can accrue all-purpose to get cashed out, right?
So the problem, though, the reason.
But
we
most
ca-
places, all-purpose sick leave is not, that's use or lose for sick leave. And vacation, if you're cashing anything out, maybe it's vacation, because that's a benefit that you've truly earned. I don't know what the answer is, but this is something we'll be discussing. Again, the intent would be to discuss it to clean it up in my mind, but not to take away any benefit from the employee.
But the reason we just.
And I might get disagreements here, and maybe there's some frustration.
No, but I was gonna say, I think it takes like seven
wanna
to
take
10
anything away.
years to accrue.
7 years to
the-
accrue.
The maximum.
7, 8 years.
Right, and so
So you've gotta be here a long time.
you've got to be
maxed
here a
out.
long time before they
Before
cash
you
it
get
out.
to 240, because
But-
that's 6 weeks essentially.
Well, no, the
No.
other, the all leave.
Oh.
But the reason we changed that was we had some that had rolled it over so that when they retired, like we had some people that had been here over 40 years, we were writing checks that were
Yeah, huge.
humongous.
We had a
So
huge
that's why we had to go out and
Right, you
say,
can't do
cash
that.
everybody every week, because
Yeah.
if we have 3 long-term employees all retire in the same year, not to mention names, and we all have these huge blocks,
Be big.
that 1 year could really mess up our budget.
It costs $25,000 to $50,000.
So that's why we went and cash it out at the end of the year, so that we're not gonna put another council or some, not have 1 year where we're putting $200,000 into buyout.
Oh, I agree.
And we changed that.
And Brent, I know this is going to be a topic, it sounds like, of a different discussion, and this is a whole different world for me. I'm an independent contractor, so I don't get sick days, I don't get vacation days.
Did you get a new job?
I just get days. But,
Just kidding.
but I think from a policy perspective, and we can discuss this at a later point, but my personal opinion is we want to encourage and incentivize our employees to stay healthy and not have to miss work because of sick days. And there is only so much a person can do to avoid that, but there are lifestyle choices that employees can make. And that they are also not disincentivized for not taking vacation days when we really want them to. That's a really
That's right,
important part
mental
of their
health
life.
is a critical part of that, right? I don't want to incentivize you not to take a vacation. We want you to go
Right.
and
And that's
recharge.
why we have the use it or lose it on
And that's why you
vacation.
have use it or lose it. But is there, PTO in a previous city, we had 3 weeks, 4 days. When you start off right off the bat, you have 3 weeks, 4 days of vacation. And use it. We call it either scheduled leave or unscheduled leave. Unscheduled is when you're sick or last minute, call in. I mean, there's benefits to that, for sure, but there's also drawbacks to that. So what is the right way to do it? And during this, when we bring it back to you, we'll be looking at other cities and how they do it. Again, not to be inconsistent, but to understand this is a benefit that cities offer, and that's how we compete with other cities as well, when you're looking at your total compensation package. Bereavement leave, this is the first city I've ever been a part of that doesn't have a bereavement leave, getting back to the original conversation. Again, because you want to make sure as they're going through this difficult time that they don't have to worry about whether they have enough vacation leave or sick leave to attend a funeral, because it might be leave without pay, and that's really a tough situation. Saying, I'm sorry you got to go to this funeral, but you're not getting paid for the next 5 days while you're out.
And I
I
totally
don't want to be
agree.
in that situation.
I totally agree with that, but kind of getting back on the subject, the only thing that's said, and it probably as I sit here and think about it, doesn't matter, because it probably would happen very infrequently, but if a great-great-grandfather died, three days seems like a lot to me.
That's what I'm
I mean,
concerned about.
I'm
I think
concerned
the
about the immediate family.
is way too broad.
That was
my-
yeah, because that's just a way
Well,
of getting,
But here's an example, and
Days.
I'm not trying to be insensitive, but my
Right.
husband, all 4 of his grandparents passed away since we've been married. Of course I was sad, and of course I went to the funeral, but I wasn't planning the funeral, I wasn't as close to them. I'm worried if that's maybe a little too broad. I think you should still have like the 5 days of funeral leave,
Right.
but in some cases, I guess I'm like thinking that if I had this policy at my job, and when it gets to the point where Matt has a huge family, and so I would be gone a lot,
right. I think
possibly.
I
I'm just
think,
saying,
Well, like I was saying,
I think it's maybe
Gina
a
may
little
be
too broad.
planning vacations around funerals.
Right.
and I just,
That's the
and yet-
worry.
You're saying
And yet-
Gina's gonna be getting bungee jumping and
But-
skydiving lessons for
But,
people?
Yeah,
but
no,
the,
but
but
in
to
all
Brand's point,
but in all seriousness, though, the point I'm trying to make is, I think there are absolutely cases where you're gonna need all 8 days. If you lose a parent or child or, possibly a sibling, it depends on the relationship. If you have to go out of state, of course that needs to be, I'm supportive of that. But I do think there's some cases too where, I just maybe wouldn't need 8 days for, all of these relationships.
You're not going to see people take advantage of the 8 days. They don't even
I'm not-
take advantage of the entire 5 days. that's
right, but they're
available
gonna
to them,
take,
I'm not
they're
saying
gonna
they
take
will.
advantage of the 3
They'll
days.
take the 3
Why
every
would you
time.
not?
except that what Brand is saying is, and again, this is the question, we're talking about an exception. What about the family member who is the caretaker for grandpa and grandma? Who does that?
You've got to have enough flexibility that they can have dialogue with their manager.
Yes,
But
that's-
what I'm saying is that with this policy, you still have some ambiguity about how long the employee is going to be gone.
Yes.
And sometimes you're
What do
talking
you
to an
suggest
employee and
is
sometimes
the
you're
the
not.
resolution to that, George?
Well, that's why I was asking about the stacking, is because if I'm doing 5 days of funeral leave, is that 3 bereavement that
And
are being
2
paid
days.
of the 5? So I'm only taking 2 days?
Correct.
Or is that 3 bereavement days that are paid for and then the 5 are on me separately?
I think it's
That's-
saying.
I think it's the
3 and
latter.
Yeah,
5.
just
I think it's the
the
latter, the way it's
Let's
written.
say it's both, and actually, we should probably call them both bereavement.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter if you're going to a funeral or not, it's whatever you're helping with or what you decide, so really, it should be clarified that it's bereavement, not funeral, you have to go to the funeral versus bereavement because you're sad. They should just be equal, but the idea is, yes, you can have 3 paid, and if you want, you can use accrued long-term sick leave to go. That's the policy. You can obviously change it, but you can also change, if grandparent, great-grandparent is too broad, you can dial that back.
So why even
think
put in
the-
the 5 days? So if you're gonna be using sick days anyway,
Because the employee, the idea is that if the employee does have to do some of these other things, like,
what you're
speak
saying
at the
is you don't want an
funeral
employee have to
or
say,
the house or-
well, I'm gonna take 3 bereavement days or 2 bereavement days, and then I'm gonna be sick for 3 days. You don't wanna have to say that, even though they're, from a robotic
or they could use
perspective, they're the same
vacation.
thing.
Yeah, they could use
Why
vacation.
can't they just use their sick leave if they need to for, if somebody has to leave and go out of state and plan a funeral and they've got to stay and maybe take care of some things, I guess I'm just saying, why can't they use their sick leave?
In addition to the bereavement, or because, just
No,
sick to
just
begin with?
like get the bereavement, but then,
But
instead of
that's why it's
saying
long-term
5.
sick.
But instead of saying 5 days, I guess I'm saying, can't these guys manage how many days they think they need to take?
And we're saying 5 days is our existing policy, so we're not amending the existing.
Okay.
If we want to amend the existing policy, we can, but I'm not opposed to the idea of saying, look, you have up to this many days, whether you say it's 5 or 8, and then beyond that requires department head approval, is not a terrible thing, because the department head then has the discretion of saying, yes, your situation's a tough situation, 2 weeks, we should be okay.
But we
right?
don't
I
need to add that
mind
language to
idea.
this because it's already there, if we were making a motion.
Well, what we're saying now is we've got the leave classification of 3 paid bereavement, 5 in existing policy of the long-term sick, all-purpose leave, whatever it's called.
Long-term sick,
Long-term sick, but not all-purpose, right?
not all purpose, long-term sick.
Long-term sick, which accrues to 240?
No, long-term sick is a different pot.
Yeah, okay,
So there's 3 pots. You have vacation, all-purpose, and long-term.
okay, so
This-
at least we know what we're drawing out of.
This is why I brought up the question, and maybe my mind just, why there's just not vacation and paid time off?
had a good
Why,
chat.
why we have to label, you know, you get so much paid time off, you can use it for bereavement, sick,
Because when you retire, you can convert some, depending on which.
So it's how we pay
which,
it out, and that's
tier
how
you're
we
on.
protect the liability of the city ultimately. That's why if we call it PTO in Yuma, you don't cash out the whole thing, you cash out 25%. And that's how, again, there's so many different ways you can do this, and I'm just saying ours should just be evaluated and making it a little bit more streamlined, because I think we're incentivizing the wrong thing and decentivizing the wrong thing. And our caps are really low, but it protects our liability, but it puts some challenges, particularly on department heads who are working so many hours, they don't get to take it, so they're using or losing once they hit 10. Anyway, there's so many different things. You don't want to take benefits away from employees. So that's what's critical for me as we reevaluate how we're doing this. I don't want to take benefits away.
But if we're
But I-
giving this and then we reevaluate, we're gonna
Adding
be
something
taking
with
away.
this,
What this is
Which I'm
adding,
fine
but I'm
with.
saying I don't want to mess with the other, when you're
Hey,
talking
don't
about
go
three
away,
pots.
we still wanna hear from
When
you.
you're talking about the 3 pots, I don't.
Come on.
No,
We wanna
no,
hear
he
from you.
hasn't.
He hasn't forgot what he wanted to say.
On pins and needles.
We might have moved on a couple topics.
No, that's all right. Let's hear.
But it was discussion earlier about employees' actual use of funeral leave. So I've been handling payroll for the police department, which is, you know, the biggest department in the city, for the last few years. And I've seen the actual use of funeral leave by our staff when they lose family members. And I'll tell you this, though, typically they don't take the full amount of time allotted. We're kind of a smaller city, smaller department. We pretty much know each other's lives. And they've been taking the amount needed. And so, with this bereavement leave, I was floored when I saw that we did not have a leave, and that, and then when the state passed the law requiring it for miscarriages and stillbirths. And then when I realized if a mother were to have a child and it were to be born just long enough to breathe, right? And then it passes. The city could not give that person bereavement leave. But if the child was stillborn, then by law, we would have to provide bereavement. And so I just can't see a way where our city cannot provide bereavement on some level for family.
That's exactly the point where I bring it up now, because with that, this has been probably I've talked about this when I first started, why don't we have bereavement leave? We had employees, families passing. And I never really pushed the issue again, because I know there's some sensitivity about benefits, you know, not necessarily giving too many benefits, and so we didn't bring it up. But with the stillborn being passed, I'm like, now's the time to be consistent across the board, particularly in this area.
Well, I just want to go on record that I am not opposed to it. In fact, I'm very much a proponent of it. It's just, having been there with employees, it's a very awkward conversation. Some managers handle it better. The reason you even have these time boxes is so you're setting expectations for the employees. That if you're going to do, like, that's why I was asking if it's stacked. If you know you get 8 total, you just tell your manager you're gone for 8. He doesn't have to probe, or she doesn't have to probe about what your plans. If they need more, or you know there's something, then they have that opportunity. But to me, these time boxes are pretty reasonable. I'm not opposed to them. I just wanted to get clarification so we know what the upper limit is.
It's not a terrible suggestion. I like it. It's great.
I was gonna say, I'm fine with all of that. I think my only angst here is just that I would like to see the immediate family, maybe just like, yes, there are some that no matter what, that's 3 days, and then maybe some others are, you know, at the manager's discretion, like they know that person was close to a grandparent.
I just think that
And they open
puts,
up liability
I just
for you.
put, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Jody. It puts the manager in an awkward position. You could be labeled as favoritism, et cetera.
Because the point of this policy is we're trying to take care of the mental health of our employees. And if we place a value on a relationship, I think it gets
I
really
could even
tough.
go to grandparent, but great-grandparent seems like you're pushing it.
In scenario, my mother might need the support to support losing her. You know what I mean? There's just so many scenarios you can think of, and I don't necessarily want to get in and say, what is your relationship? I had a close relationship with my great-grandparent to say that, you know, again, putting a value on that is really tough. It's part of my heritage. Am I supporting my great-grandma, or am I supporting my grandma or my mom with the
Well,
loss
we're
of
not
that
saying
family
you
member?
can't have the days off. You've got vacation, you've got sick leave.
I was gonna say, you have the
bereavement-
funeral leave.
I mean,
so-
we've got that, so I just feel like, I mean.
Are you suggesting you just narrow the scope of immediate family member? Because if you
Just
do
a little.
that, then the employee does not get, they're excluded from bereavement leave if it's a great-grandparent.
Lisa, remind me, how much of this definition was taken from the state's definition? Is it the entire thing? Is that exactly how they defined it?
Yes, so let me just, to be honest, our current policy where you can use long-term sick leave defines immediate family member as father, mother, sibling, spouse, child, or anyone for whom the legal guardian, the employee is a legal guardian. So the state does add any level of grandparent and any level of grandchild.
So what I'm saying is,
Okay.
Gina and Robin, if you want to
You could say-
exclude greats either way on the upper or lower end, you're almost going to have to create a new paragraph.
No, you just say child, grandparent, or grandchild.
Well, I'm
Then they're
saying,
gonna use a vacation.
then they're
if
gonna use a vacation day. What they're saying is, hey, I'd still want to give them a bereavement day, but it's one
I
day.
don't think that's
Not
what we're saying.
necessarily.
We're
No?
saying we're okay with what
You're
we
okay with
already
three?
have.
So this
I'm
is-
okay with limiting just a little, and if it is a family member, they can use their funeral leave, down, the section E, down below.
I honestly think that your risk of somebody actually using that's so low that I would just leave it. I mean, how many people have got great-grandparents still alive?
That are
Maybe some
working in
of
the
you do.
city.
Yeah,
'Cause
that
most
that
great-
are employees working for this, I don't know that that's a huge number. To me, it doesn't, I think that one's on the theoretical.
That's why I'm
Okay,
like.
I mean, I think you bring up a point that you're
And
right.
that's what I said, sitting
stay
here
with the state,
thinking,
too.
I can see where it's not gonna be a huge amount of people that are gonna lose a great-great-grandparent.
Yeah, I think you're right, and probably less likely they'd lose a great-great-grandchild. Right? They probably aren't working if they.
I don't know, I've seen some people work for the state 40,
happen.
50 years, it's possible.
Social Security goes away, yes, yes.
I definitely think we need
Still be
the,
working.
Mayor, I don't know if I'll get a second on this, but I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023-8, amending section 5.120 of the personnel policy providing for bereavement leave for employees who suffer the death of an immediate family member, and amending section 5.070 regarding the definition of immediate family.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. I don't know, we discussed further, but I'm up giving that option. Well, then, starting with Councilman McKeon.
Aye.
Aye. Now, you haven't said nothing at all. We don't even know what you're thinking.
I'm thinking I'm probably too much of a skinflint hard something. I think it's over and above, but
Does your vote stand, Bill? So
yeah,
Before
I
it
said,
moves to me, I don't want to.
Go ahead, I said aye.
Okay. Aye.
aye.
It passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay,
We're too worried about why we don't have to work instead of why we work.
let's go to item number 5. This is a church welfare station. I don't know that council needs any background on this because you've all heard from residents, but.
Are we gonna not boo, or can we boo?
And Mike's given us a report, and he'll give us a further report.
Well, Mayor, City Council, thanks for this great opportunity. I just love it.
Waited all night for this, Mike.
No sarcasm, please.
I'm happy to be here. Do whatever you guys want. So I guess stepping back, we had the well, right? So we provided free service for a long period of time. My crews have been trying to keep it going the best they can. As of last weekend, the motor's still working fine, but the pump is not, and so thus far, there's no more water coming out of it. So there's a couple different options we can look at going. Let me give you a little bit more history. So in one casing is 2 wells. So we have a DC well and an AC well, okay? DC we can run with the sun, and we put that in for emergency purposes so that we can provide for our residents in the time of a big power outage or whatever that we may have. So that's still there. That's down 127 feet. And then the AC pump is down 192 feet, which that's the one that runs to give everybody the water
So
that they like.
what's the water depth? Does the DC do
The
anything?
water depth is about 70 feet right now.
So you
where
still have
it's at.
about 50 feet of coverage for the
Yeah.
DC pump?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it should be, hopefully, we're coming up ever so slightly, but it is returning a little bit. So the well casing's down 155 feet, and why that's important, I'll go into in a minute. So there's a couple options that we can go. Number one is we can not do anything, and the DC pump will still continue to work. So we have emergency services we can provide. Option number two is we repair both of them, and why I say both of them, meaning over the DC works, if you're gonna spend all that money to pull it out, you might as well replace both and put new motors in on it.
Except you said the motor's still running.
The motor on the DC still runs, but it's been in for about 11 years, thereabouts. We don't have a lot of good history on that. I've been trying to find,
No, but I thought you said the AC motor was running, but it's not pumping.
DC is running, AC is not.
I understand.
AC is the one that everybody's been using for the fill station.
But to your point, since
DC
we're
is
using
only
the
used
DCs,
for-
are
I understand, but
Yeah.
when we started, I thought you said the motor's still running, but it's not pumping.
Right, so you have a turbine, or a submersible pump that's down there, it's all bolted together. So the power is still going down, we feel like the pump's still turning, or the motor is still turning, but the pump is not. It's like a different, I can't remember how many stages, probably at least a 2 or 3 stage pump, and so now it's just not pumping anymore. It's kind of like the pump is just sitting there going around in circles and not doing any pumping. So the AC pump is basically gone. So I met with one of the well drillers that we deal with a lot, and he came out graciously in emergency status for me, and we looked at it. We came up with, well, our best option would be to take and pull the pump out, pumps and motors, and then TV it. We'll run a TV down in it, see if we need to brush and bail it. So brush and bail it just like a toothbrush, you slide it down inside and you keep cleaning it out. What you want to do is get the mill knife slits all opened up.
Get the
so
what?
the water comes in, the mill knife slit. So when they punch your holes in the casing so the water can run into the well. So if we go the full way, so basically, let me back up, that's why I get it straight for you guys. So bottom line, he'll pull it, we'll TV it and see if we need to bell it, brush it and bell it. If we don't need to brush and bell it, we can put the new motor on, set it back down in and be done with it. So I do have his price that he gave me. I can't share that still yet because I'm still working with other well drillers to get a price. I can tell you that I can have him here if we want to commit to June 30th or July 6th, which is incredible. The other well driller I talked to is a month and a half out at least. The one hasn't called me back yet. So I'm trying to get 3 prices the best I can. And looking at the one price, it looks to me very reasonable. It's a little bit lower than what I thought, but it depends on what the cost of the pumps have come up. So, not being able to share that number with you, it makes it tough.
What's our annual stats on gallons?
Okay, so last year we pulled out of there, 8,000, or excuse me, about a little over 3/4 gallons we pulled out of there. So the green still tank plus, basically. So we had 48,611 people push the button last year. So
48.
that's the other bad thing that's bad for the pump is because you're starting and stopping it all the time.
So, Mike, I got 2 questions.
Okay?
And sorry for the risk of embarrassment. Do we use the church well for any other purpose than just people that want to fill their needs? Does that go to any homes?
So
I
let me,
guess.
let me back up and help you out with that a little bit. So the original church well that was drilled in 1953 used to take care of all the citizens. It came on just like a regular pump. When we had fluoride brought in, we went in and looked at the well, developed the well, looked at it, said there's no way we're gonna pull 1,200 gallons a minute out of that shaft. So we made the option of being able to move about approximately 15 feet to the southwest, and we drilled another well casing. So the new well that we have in there takes care of all the citizens. The old well, which was drilled in 1953, only takes care of the people that are getting non-fluoridated water, and then the other side, they can get chlorinated water.
And we're only talking about the old well.
We're only talking about the old well. The new well's not gonna get touched.
Okay.
The big risk in moving forward right now, I was kind of hoping we could wait till October, but evidently we're not. But if this company can get in, get it done fast, then it wouldn't be too much of a problem. But the problem is, if we pull that well down during the summer peak demand times, we're losing one of our major sources. So you may get in the middle of it and say, okay, we're stopping, so.
So if we
Have to go
do
back.
maintenance on the one side, it shuts the other side down?
Okay, only because you're taking and brushing and belling and you're gonna pull water quality problems into the other well.
Yeah.
Okay?
So the second question is this. So one of your points is people are turning on and off the motor that has excessive wear and tear. So is there a way in which we can just put a continuous recirc pump in there that has a valve that opens up as opposed to turning on the motor? And so when people aren't filling, it's just putting it back down in the well. Does that make sense?
It
So
does.
I don't want to do that. I've seen
But you're
people,
gonna pay a heck of a power bill.
well, besides the power
Popping
bill,
it back
yeah,
down.
that's true.
I've seen people
I mean,
water
in
their
my home,
dogs in that well.
for example, in my home, I've got a recirc pump for my hot water, so that I'm saving water, not waiting for the warm water, shower water to come on. That's what I was thinking in my mind, but,
Yeah.
okay. My
I did the
little,
math, it was
my little
133
recirc
times
pumps probably runs a lot less,
based on your math.
But that said, is that something that you can ask a contractor to look at? Is there a different type of pump that can maybe handle that
We'll
on,
ask
off,
all
on,
those
off?
questions. You know, we want it to last as long as it can if we put it back in. I mean, that's still you guys' call, whether you want to get it up and going again.
But this one has lasted, with the 49,000 times, last year 47,000, the year before that 32,000, whatever it was. It's lasted how many years?
So we put.
2005.
Yeah,
No, or
when
did
we
you-
put it in, but we pulled it twice. Randy had our crews pull it once, and we put it back in. And then we had Kyle Whittison come in, but I can't find that documentation. I think it was about 2017 was when we pulled it
so
last.
kind of like a
And so
5-7 year life cycle.
When they,
I mean, I think you're about a 10-year life cycle, best case. So 10 years from now, I figure you're gonna be looking at it again. You know, we thought it'd last a little bit longer with brushing, belling it, getting it cleaned. You know, we were getting a lot of iron in it and stuff, and so we felt like that was the best way to go. You know, you never know. Wells are a funny thing. You know, I've had questions about how long will the casing last? Well, that depends on the electrolysis that's in the ground. I mean, it's, you know, that's why it's kind of nice to clean it because you get a good look at it. But, and TVing it is not an option. That's just something you do have to do, you know. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. Like I say, I need to find out ASAP because when those 2 dates are gone with that company, I don't know when we would get this other company back in again. So,
When will we be able to see some price? I mean, we want to be able to make a decision quickly, so we're not put in the back of a backlog, but we'd like to, I think, at least from my perspective, know what's the price of option A in timing, what's the price and timing of option
the
B,
big thing, I don't
C,
want to ruin my
et cetera.
bid because this guy gave
Right.
us a hard.
Correct, no,
Right.
I'm not asking you to
Let's
do
just
that,
say,
Mike. I'm just
worst
saying,
case scenario.
when would you be able to get that information to us?
Well, I got one that should maybe show up later this week, first part of next week. The other guy I haven't been able to reach yet to
Okay.
do our procurement policy.
If it's less than 25,000, administratively, I can approve that. It doesn't require to come back to council. Now, if
Correct.
it's more than that, it requires your approval. So, again, based on, there might be less than 25,000 for this initial, but if they go through and find out maybe the casing's bad, then that will definitely come before council and say, do you want to continue?
Right.
So,
That's why
So administratively, we could move forward if,
We can.
I don't
we
wanna
can
get
move
on somebody's
forward with
schedule
something
only
up to
to-
25,000.
so long as, I don't want to get on somebody's schedule and have a liability of a cancellation if we get,
Can we-
looking at the casing and it's bad.
Does
Well,
it need
or
to
would
be
they work
out
with us?
Basically,
up to
they'll-
25,000?
informal bids, and that's what he's doing right now.
Okay.
They'll pull it in a day, and then after they get it out, you gotta let it set for the sediment to go down. We'll run water down in the well casing, because that helps clean it up for the camera. The camera will go down. If we decide we gotta brush and bell it, there'll be one day to brush it. And then we gotta chlorinate it and then bring it back into the system. So, best case, I think, are 2 weeks to get it back.
So what
up.
Mike and I are just trying to understand is if you want to proceed, again, this is for council to decide, if you want to essentially give us approval to proceed administratively and spend up to $25,000. If it's beyond that, then it absolutely requires your approval, but.
Well, and I might add, the one well driller is one of the well drillers we dealt with, and there was the second one that I talked to today, and he bottom line told me, he says, if you can get somebody in that quick, and he says the market is, most of these guys all charge about the same. He says they all been around, and I told him who I was getting bids from. He says that, hey, they're great, all reputable companies, And so bottom line is I don't think you're gonna save that much money by waiting, but there again, you don't know.
So can I throw out an idea to the council, and that is, we get on their schedule, but the other thing we haven't talked about is, Mayor sent an email, and I don't know how we do this, but can we start doing this crowdsourcing fundraising with Bryce's help with a QR code and maybe getting it out on our Facebook page and Bountiful or, okay, so,
Don't steal my
Here's my-
thunder.
shot down.
Can I say why I would disagree with that?
Yeah, please.
Here's the thing, like, obviously,
I'll have to disagree.
our community is passionate about this well, and we know other people that aren't in this community are passionate, but we gotta think about, if they're crowdsourcing in, then they're gonna
Then
be
they're
calling
gonna
Mike,
feel-
I paid money, and
Yeah,
I
they're gonna
don't.
feel entitled to it.
Here's the thing about the church well, like, I think it's a great service to our community, but I have had somebody actually approach me and say, you guys aren't doing your job, you're not providing clean drinking water. That is just not the case. We are providing clean drinking water according to state statutes and laws. It has to have fluoride in it, it has to be chlorinated, and that is the priority, is to provide it to these homes. When we take our staff away from providing water to the homes, we're making a huge mistake. I think this is a great thing, and I'm supportive that our community wants it. I think we should figure out a way to fund it, but I think it's really important that we don't put a situation that's gonna make it even more difficult for Mike and Dave to do their jobs.
Let me step in here real quick. So while you're talking about
Thank you
complaints.
for stating
It's-
that for the council.
It's kind of interesting. Brant was there the other day when I had a guy come down, and it's like, well, I drove all the way from such and such city out to the north, and, I have to drive back and forth, and I explained to him, well, you can use the QR code, and you don't have to come back and forth, and it's, when my guys start getting picked on up there, that's when it upsets me. And I was sitting in my office, and I had a couple of my employees walk by, and they're talking about, I can't believe how that guy from way up north come in and ripped on us because we didn't have it up and going. This is not my only priority. As a matter of fact, we make no money off of it, and I've got a grant. I lost over 45 hours last week because of this well. I've got all the meters in and radios in right now to finish up my meter grant, which I committed I would have it done in December 1st. Well, that didn't happen because of supplies. The supplies are here now, and I want to get it done and get it over with. I've got water line jobs going. I got street jobs going. It is not the only priority I have. The priority is keeping water going to each one of our residents' houses. That's my priority. And I appreciate that there's people that want to have this water. I love the water myself. It's great water. It's great on, total dissolved solids. It's very low on about it, no pesticides, no herbicides. I can go on for a week on the quality of that well. It's a great well, and I understand why people want to drink it. But the one thing that I've got to figure out, if we decide, or you guys decide to get it going again, I've got to figure out how I'm going to handle these complaints. And me and Dave Walker's had some comments and talks back and forth. I want to pursue that more. I think we go to the QR code again, and we say, if there's a problem with the well, go through this, don't call and tell us what's going on.
And maybe a sign that says, we are doing this as a courtesy, you know, and this is a courtesy to our residents, and if you're here using it, we welcome you, but, you know, I mean, nice, I can't think of an exact way to say it now, but something up there that says, look, this isn't we're not obligated to do this, we're doing it as a courtesy. If you have a problem with it, please don't take our work time away from our staff. Send us a message on this QR code.
And so, yeah, you're absolutely right, but some of the problems I've dealt with over the years is a guy that shows up with a 55-gallon drum from way out west, and all my residents are standing there waiting to get water.
Right.
That's not right. I went up to him and said, you're done. As soon as that button stops, you're allowing everybody else to get water. Very unhappy, but I really don't care because he's not in our town anymore.
Right.
But,
And I've had those complaints also where.
yeah, and it's, you know, I've had it used as a dog bath. I mean, it's
Yeah, I've seen
amazing
that
what
multiple
people.
times.
Yeah, and we've got to do a better education on it. But there again, that's time, that's money, you know, we have to spend on it. We in the water department have spent a lot of money just to keep it maintaining that we really didn't have. Our budgets were, dropped down a lot lower than what I wanted to see this year in there. But, you know, I agree that it's a great service. That's why I'm here to serve the residents of Centerville. You guys want it in there, I'll get it in there. I'll whatever we got to do.
So here's the thing, Mike, your sentence, if we are going to shut the well down to make the repairs, I would like it to be after the summer demands on our large wells, and we are running Weber Basin water into the system.
True.
I don't want it shutting down when we have 17,000 other residents to worry about, if you feel we should be waiting till October to fix it.
Okay, so after that statement I made to you on that, which is what my true intent is, that would be the best scenario, right? I talked with the one guy that we're dealing with, and he says, you know what, I think we can get in and out fast enough. If you can be there, we can get it in, get it done, and move on. If we ran into a problem, we would have to shut it down, let it sit for a couple days, and then fire the big well back. But I think we can overcome that if you guys want to get the water going.
Then
You think the well's down for maybe 2 days based on what he told you?
Two
Or
weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
So you'd be switching over to Weber Basin, which is.
No, we'll just continue
Can,
to
you
use
think
the
you
other
can
wells.
keep
but-
up? Okay.
Okay, so I have three main producers for the south end. I have Chase, New City Hall Well,
Okay.
Church Well. The Lions Well is a filler. You know, it only does, about 500 gallons a minute. So that's a filler well to help us get through it. So, I can get by with 2 wells very easily. But if something happens to one of the 2 wells, what do I go to? So that's my strategy of what I'm thinking. I don't want to jeopardize all the rest
I
of town.
thought we could
mean,
cross-feed the entire city from either side.
We can.
So,
We
okay.
can. And I think we could make it. And when we got it back to the slow flow, I felt like if we could make it to December, that's the way I wanted to go.
October.
Excuse me, yeah, October.
I think the struggle is you do have some residents who are very anti-fluoride, and I'm not going to debate that one way or another, but, and I want to be respectful of the fact that they live here and they have an expectation of getting water, and it is a hassle to go get water at their church well, and if somebody's going to that hassle, I want to be able to support that. I will go on record as saying I am very frustrated by the number of non-resident complaints that I've received, that they're like, it's like, well, maybe your city should go drill a well. And that's where, if this gets super expensive to maintain, I'm almost to the point of, hey, if you're a resident, you have a PEN code, you can use it if you're a resident. If you're not a resident, we have no obligation to provide this to you.
And I actually am too, because when you talk about the 55-gallon guy that's coming from way north or south, and I mean, I have to drive up to Hill Air Force Base. I got some green waste sitting on my trailer because I finally did some yard work, and I have to drive all the way to Hill Air Force Base. I'd love to drive to Bountiful, but I can't do it. It's a lot more convenient. And so, yeah.
There is one $69 question that we've never got pushed by the county. So fluoride is mandated, right? So we're producing something that is mandated. So by law, we should be putting fluoride in that water. That's a question that me and Randy had from beginning one. The county's never said anything, so I'm good with that. But I mean, if somebody wanted to flex their muscles, they could challenge you on that part.
Well, but you're providing the fluoridated water through the water system.
Right.
But you're bypassing it, so to speak. I mean, it's a challenge. It was
So,
a
so
challenge.
are you saying we need a placard on there that says that we do not guarantee the quality of this water?
It's already
Oh,
there.
I guarantee the quality of that water.
No, but what I'm saying is that we
George,
don't.
it's already there.
But what I'm saying that it's unadulterated by any other substances that may be
The
required.
county's not, I mean.
I'm not worried about it,
I am not
really.
either, but it is, you know, you never know what's gonna change up there and could come back at you.
Since I know one commissioner who's pretty unhappy, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, yeah, so that's.
And I appreciate him, or if we're talking the same guy, that reached out to
Well, you
try to
narrowed it
find
down.
some funds, but.
He didn't
Anyway,
do a very good job, though.
I'm not gonna go there.
But I really am with the mayor on this, and that, you know, I don't want to see it abused in the future. If we're going to invest some serious money, if we see continued abuse like that, I'd lock it down. I'd say, if you're a Centerville resident, we'll give you a pen code book to your household. That's totally
Well,
fine.
we have some modes that we talk, I mean, this is not the first rodeo on charging. We've talked about it, we've never come up with a good way that's inexpensive enough to do it. But, you know, we can always still have that conversation down the road, so.
You could also put a sign up that says limited to a certain amount of gallons per fill, because it's gonna self-regulate itself.
He
Because-
says the pump comes on for 3 minutes and then turns off, so.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if I'm standing there in line behind the 55-gallon drum, and there's a sign right there that says you can only fill 5 gallons, I'm gonna say to him, my turn.
Oh, I agree, we should have something like that, but I think it should, like, you get one pump, which, whatever that is.
Well, one pump isn't enough, because people, one pump probably only
Well, if
fills.
it's 10
One
to
pump
20
would fill.
gallons a
If it
minute,
was going right, you would do a 5-gallon and a half of another one,
Could you?
yeah.
yeah, I
Well,
think it's
it's
enough to
gone
get
way
a
down.
5-gallon
I mean-
bucket and a little more.
And I don't think people are not opposed to pay if you create a mechanism for them to donate, right? If we create a QR code and we go with Qualtrics, I'm gonna do another little plug, they can go in and donate $3 for the amount of water. I don't think people are opposed to it, we just don't ask for it. But if people want to contribute to it, to get their,
I
we can
think-
make that option available.
I think that if you make it on a donate basis, you won't get enough to,
You'll do what, I'm sorry?
you won't get enough to buy
No, you're
our
not gonna
next
cover your
council
costs,
meal.
but again, it's an honor system, and they're saying, look, if you want to contribute, you're welcome to.
Yeah, if you enjoy the service, please donate. Just leave it at
And
that.
guilt trip, if
People
you don't
are
live in
afraid that
Centerville,
if they don't donate,
pay
we're gonna
double.
lose it.
Correct.
There's ways to do that.
And we can look at that. I hate to see us waste our time on that tonight, but, I mean, that's a good,
I'd
long
rather
topic. I mean,
if we-
it's,
if we feel
not
that
only
way,
that,
and
you have to
I'm
get into
leaning
more of the
that way,
customer
then we ought to
service.
just put it-
Realize, even though you donate, we're not gonna
Costs
come
you
in
more
on a
to charge
weekend,
than
we're
it
not
would
gonna
be.
be on a holiday. You know, we'll be there as
You
we
might get it,
can.
you might
I'll
not.
agree the fact that.
Do we-
if
I don't know, do
it
we
would
have
cost us
hours on
more
it?
Staff time.
No.
No.
So that's another.
Well, that's another
That's
issue
another-
from a community's
What we would
perspective. The neighbors across the street, you have people backing up in their headlights at
Yeah.
midnight or one morning.
Putting
I've
out-
gotten emails from the neighbors across the way saying people are filling up at
Oh, yeah.
terrible hours.
So the math
and their-
is, so
their
Lisa and I
lights are
did,
right in
so
my
48,000
front
times a year it's clicked, which goes down to 133 times a day.
Day.
That is button is pressed.
Correct.
Just
And that's more than
5
every
times every
Centerville.
24 hours.
Yeah,
5 times
So my,
every hour for a
Every
24-hour
hour,
period.
correct.
And, yeah, that's.
So again, we can look at restrictions on when it's available, is that a thing? And if there's, potentially a Venmo or a pay, we can look at
There's
that
ways to
too.
do that.
But I
Want to look at a
appreciate-
PIN code, that could be abused and PIN code being shared with their
Yeah.
neighbors
No,
down
Yeah,
the
and
street.
you just change out the
It's
PIN
interactive.
code
You
every,
scan it, and it will send you a text message.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You scan it, it sends you the text message. If you're a Centerville number, registered with the city, turns on. If you're not, you can do your pay to fill.
Make it inconvenient for the non-residents, what you're saying.
I-
Still find a way
Well,
around it, but
What
it'd
if
be
you're a resident, but
inconvenient.
you kept your number from a different state?
And we're just gonna have to have.
Well,
police-
you register with
there's
the
way,
state.
we could talk about that, that's a different
Yeah.
customer service issue, but to your original point about replacing both of, basically doing a full overhaul, replacing all the mechanicals, I'm in total support of that, since it is our disaster recovery well. Yeah, I don't know if the stat's ever been shared with you, but and correct me if I had heard this wrong from Randy, but on the DC solar power only, we could provide 1.5 gallons per resident per day. And so I'd like to make sure we maintain that.
I'm also supportive of that for the exact same reasons. I would like to maybe just suggest that while we're doing this, it wouldn't hurt to do a diagnostic well test, which is health of the well. Mike mentioned there's iron, a little more iron in it. That can be signs of the casing having some issues. This has been in since 1953. It costs $1,500 to $2,000 to do that diagnostic testing. It's not chemicals like what's safe to drink. It's chemicals that aren't necessarily listed but tell something about the health of the well. I think we ought to add that in. Just because if we really are relying on it for emergency purposes and we also want to provide this to our residents, it's probably time. If it does need a little more mechanical work than just the brushing, maybe it needs swabbing or something, I think that's, you're going to pull it out, so it's a good time to maybe consider that.
Great time.
So the question I was trying to get at originally, without like getting into your bids, you said administratively 25,000. Are we talking significantly more than 25,000 potentially? If the casing is okay, and you're just talking about the operation of, you're cleaning it, possibly opening it up and letting it settle out, we're talking 30,000, 40,000, 50,000?
I'll answer the question so Mike doesn't have to. It potentially is less than 25, more than likely less than 25,000 if you exclude all that other, and still adding in what Councilmember.
Maybe do the testing as well.
Yeah, because I was saying from my perspective, I don't want to wait to revisit this. That's what I was saying. Even if it was like 35,000, I would say from a council perspective, I would say, yeah, you have a $35,000 budget, go do it.
But if your testing comes back negative, then the price.
It could go up at that point,
shoot way up,
but still I think it's important to know
Or
what
positive.
it is.
I totally agree, totally
I think
agree.
you'll find it's
I
fine, but
think
there's still, like you say, you already got it out, you might as well do.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying. We've already made people upset and frustrated. Let's make sure we're
agree.
fixing it right.
Yeah, and at that
You know,
point,
we're-
if a lot of bad things come through, we'll have to reevaluate where we are, but yeah, I want to know what's going on.
And
I-
Gina, to your point, if people are mad and frustrated, we need to remind them that this is a courtesy service and that our primary focus is on water delivery for the rest of our city. Fortunately, tonight, we've picked up another 17,000 by not having the primary election, a little new growth on our mill rate, and some Utopia savings by Councilmember Meekum. So I think we
I'll
have some
take it. Great
additional
Yeah.
budget
Hold
amendment
on with
money that we could
I think
figure
we could
things
fund
out.
it, for sure.
So,
I do think that we ought to at least explore the ability to charge non-residents.
Well, I'm not sure, and we can work this out with him, but, you know, I can work with him the number, and if we chart our path, I just don't want to exclude my bidder. That's my main.
yes,
purpose.
no, I
yeah.
agree with you,
That
Mike.
number.
We're gonna-
You want to make sure you keep your integrity and consistency in
But I
your
don't know
bidding
how-
community.
So the hard thing that I have is, if I don't book probably tomorrow, I can't guarantee the June 30th or the July 6th.
But how do you
Is there-
book tomorrow without bidding?
Well, he
That's
doesn't.
what he's doing
how you
now.
gonna do
Again,
both of
but
those?
that's what he's doing
Doesn't-
now. He already has a bid from one other, and he's waiting for a callback. He's made attempts. And part of the informal process, if I made an attempt to contact a vendor and they don't call me back, I've made the attempt.
Correct.
And it's
Okay, okay.
So we can't,
Formal bidding, the informal bidding could be completed by tomorrow.
And to
Could be completed in an hour.
And to help
Might
Mike
do it.
out, given all the time that he spent on it, I would prefer that as a council, we ease his path forward and let him get that on the schedule at least, so that he knows and he can get that, I talked about my thought, rumination, let's get that rumination out of his brain and then get his other bid later this week or next.
isn't that
Yeah.
what you would prefer?
To be totally honest with you, I love the guy's bid.
Well, I
think
know,
that's-
but you have to get, but you have to
But
get
what I'm
another
saying,
bid.
and so we
do.
are supporting you, so yes, I'm fine with, let's get
So
the
it
preliminary bids through and get going.
It sounds like it doesn't matter either way. The council is unanimous in the idea that this needs to be fixed. It's going to
Yep.
be in the administrative category, so it's not going to come back to us. But even if it did, I think you'd have the support. So I don't see a reason to not proceed on, best judgment.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And then at some future meetings, we talk about the other things,
some of
the
the other
ancillary
things.
things, because I think this council is united in.
We'll schedule a
in
work
The
session.
non-entitlement mentality, or the entitled mentality, depending on which way we're looking at it.
And I absolutely believe that if we've got people filling 55-gallon drums, which I have not seen, now I've seen people with 10 5-gallon, which is the same
Correct,
thing.
exactly.
But I think something saying, once you've filled 20 gallons, it's somebody else's turn.
But I don't
Well,
think
I
it
think we
should be
can
that
set those
much.
rules down the road.
I think you should max 5 gallons and get back to the back of the line.
We can come
Right.
back with a
It's like the pickle.
programmatic.
We
We're
could
gonna-
do
we're
all
gonna have
that
the
on
same
another
discussion
night.
about pickleball courts,
We'll have
actually.
some discussion.
Because once you play one game, get off the court and wait your turn for the
We're
next one.
good. We
It's the
have
same
clear
thing.
direction.
No,
We need to help.
they got the direction.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm totally in agreement that we come back at some future point, we talk about how do we lock it down a little bit more and charge non-residents. Because, Bill, if we did it by like a rotating pin code, like you scan a QR code and you get like the code to enter in, that's for one go. And then if it tells you you can't do that for another 3 to 4 minutes, you're gonna discourage people from sitting there and doing the, 50 gallons at a time. There's definitely solutions for that.
We do have some elderly people that show up with 1-gallon jugs, which that's the best that they can lift. And they'll throw 5 in there, but it takes time to do it, so it's something that needs to be talked about, but, I am sympathetic to those who are having a hard time that way, so.
So, just a point of fact, because I do have a wife who thinks she can discriminate on water. There are at least 5 other wells like this that I know of in a 15-mile radius around us.
Can we get that list and post it while we're down?
We've talked about that. We have talked
So,
about that.
and interestingly, my wife believes that she can tell which water came from which well. I can't, but that,
Well, we have a
Many
close
people
city
prefer
that
Centerville water.
the guy can tell
Water line test.
immediately, he doesn't like the other city's water, but.
yeah.
This
no,
is
I
a good
understand.
well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's by far the best well Centerville has. And maybe I go out and say the county, but that's just me throwing that out there. I don't know for sure, but, all the sampling that has been done on it, it is an awesome well. I don't know whoever picked the spot back in 1953. Kudos to them.
George.
Anything else for me?
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for the extra 45 hours you put in last week on
I
that.
didn't do it, my guys did.
Yeah, well, your department.
Tell them thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for all that we've put you through.
All right, let's go to summary action. We got 3 items on here. We do have Kevin here if we have questions on any of these. We got the CDBG ped ramps, the slurry seal, and a public works vehicle repair. Okay, do we have questions on those summary action items? Otherwise, well, any bid you do, remember to include the amount in your bid on what we're doing.
Kevin, I've got
Or
just
or not
one
bid,
question.
but motion.
We didn't want you to get all dressed up for nothing.
I just saw your name on it, so I volunteered you. Is that okay?
And Mike may have to come back up here, Dave, but on the ped ramps, how many suppliers are there in the state? If we only got 2, are there only a limited number of vendors on that?
Well, ped ramps are basically concrete flat work, so any concrete flat work contractor can bid on those.
But it's just the ramp, it's not the ADA raised dome things.
It's just the concrete work, and then they put the inserted piece in there when they
Right.
pour around
But-
it.
So we only got 2 bids.
We only got 2 bids. We were a little bit disappointed, but,
Yeah. Last council meeting, we were looking at bids, like 5 bids in certain categories, in certain jobs, I mean.
yeah, the CDBG grant is a little trickier because we usually get that grant a little later in the year.
Okay.
And so we're now in June.
Right, we're
trying
not
to-
in the prime bidding
Yes,
time? Okay.
yeah.
And that's why I was wondering on the slurry seal too, is only 2 bidders, but
Yeah, the slurry seal, we're a little late in bidding that out this year. We typically get 3 bidders on the slurry seal. That is a little bit more specialized.
yeah.
Intermountain Slurry Seal usually bids, and they're on a big state, actually, it's a national parks contract that they're stuck out of state on that they could not bid this year.
Okay. And then the last question is on the motor rebuild of the truck. And I don't know if you know the answer. This may be a Mike and Dave question. On the motor rebuild, Mike. Sorry, I'm gonna make you come up here. That's great. The question I've got, and maybe I just don't understand how these trucks are used, but it seems like overhauling a motor on a truck that only has 20,000 miles seems,
Okay,
like
so
a
think
load-
about how you're using the truck. You're
that's
plowing
what my
snow.
question is.
You're plowing snow, you're pushing a lot, you're starting, stopping, you're hauling with it and that. You know, as any mechanical thing, they can fail at any time, and it's, unfortunate. You hope that they last longer than that, but nowadays, nothing's cheap to fix
I don't
anymore.
know. I'm just thinking like a F-150 has at least a 36,000 mile warranty on it, and we're only at
I
20,000.
think it's over the time though.
Okay, well, I know that.
Years, yeah.
I'm just saying, it surprised me when I was expecting to see 120,000 miles, not 20,000 miles.
We can do 120,000, that'll be a good start on a new truck.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, okay.
No, it's, there's something majorly wrong with it, unfortunately. They can give us a guess of what they think it is. Fortunately, we had a little video, and, what did he call that? Something like chug, chug, chug or something, because it was a weird sound. It was blowing smoke. Probably said
Sounds
we
like a
should call the
technical
EPA or
Great
something.
diagnostics.
I lost it. But you don't know. I mean, it could get worse, it could be better than.
Okay.
They pretty
Good.
well know what they're talking about when it gets in there.
That answers my question. The mileage just
Yeah.
surprised me.
I mean, let's just face it, snow plowing is hard on equipment, period.
Yeah.
And we've done well. It's weird, I keep thinking back all the time, are the older trucks better than the new trucks?
Yeah.
And the new trucks are great and everything, but it's, in reality, it's sometimes it's like that old 93 we had that just kept on going forever, But, we've talked about different brands of trucks and that, but we seem back to internationals where we end up at, so, anyway. That help at all? Not at all?
No, that helps. I think it's just, to your point, it's just the wear and tear on it, the type of use.
And it's not something that anybody did, it just happened. It's just they took a load up the hill to dump it up at the basin up there, and when he got done dumping it, it started doing it. So who knows why or whatever. We'll find out more as we get it tore apart.
Okay. I'll make a motion that, as follows, that we award the CDBG ped ramps to RC Enterprise in the amount of $129,825. That we approve the slurry sill to Morgan Pavement Maintenance in the amount of $141,814.80, and that we approve the complete overhaul of the motor of truck 227 in the amount of $26,546.94 with what's the name of the vendor?
Brush trucks.
Rush Trucks, thank you.
All right, there's his motion. We got
Second.
second from Councilman Ince, is that what I heard? All right, let's do a roll call vote. Councilman Meekum.
Aye.
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 All right, that passes 5-0. Okay, let's move on. We are to the minutes. Okay, we have some changes to those minutes in front of us. Councilwoman Hurst, you want to clarify your changes?
Sure. This is on the work session minutes, top of page 2. It's in the first paragraph. The change would be to change it to Councilmember Hurst discussed a specific situation in which a pre-need headstone was desired and consider compassion for residents who may need pre-need service. And then also on the last sentence of that section, instead of a majority of the council appeared to agree with a continued prohibition on placement of headstones pre-need, change it to the council did not direct staff to make any changes to the prohibition of headstones pre-need.
I definitely agree with both of these.
And I would only make one other friendly amendment on line 11 of the same page. Past tense was, present tense is bad policy.
Okay.
With those changes, I got a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes as updated.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's go to, it's the financial report, and this, it's for information only this month. It's in your packet. It's not one of the quarterly reviews that Nate does, unless he's still here with us, unless there's some specific questions that you would like him to answer. Otherwise, it's there for your information.
Just a question, and this maybe is a Nate question, but a general question. Did we actually get our money funded for the green steel tank, the 1.5?
No.
No. And
There's been progress made. Mike probably has a better update than I do, but the Ferguson Group has been working closely with the EPA. The challenge is there's beef going on at the federal level, and we're kind of stuck in the middle of it, where these earmarks happened or discretionary spending happened, but EPA is saying, but you can't tell me what to do with my money. And so now there's this kind of battle. So there's been some push that doesn't matter what your feelings are, this is what Congress has approved, and so now there's progress. And really, it's the Ferguson Group that's been meeting with the EPA to really kind of grease the wheels and get things moving. So I feel like we're in a better situation now than we were 2 months ago. So, but yeah, we're moving forward, so it's not official yet.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go to council report. Councilmember Ince, it's your
In
turn.
in that area, do we have any concern with Chris Stewart's exit?
Very much so. Yeah, he was a huge advocate for us, and he will be greatly missed.
No,
You know,
but
my
in this
time-
particular issue,
What's that?
on the green tank.
Not this particular issue, but overall, I mean, he was on the Appropriations Committee, but I don't feel like that's going to hinder our ability to get the funding for this.
No, I was
Yeah.
more.
in the future,
Right, in the future.
Yeah,
we'll
so,
take this.
for sure, I mean, I've had a relationship with Congressman Stewart for years, because he represented Ephraim as well, and so I've worked with him for 9 years now, and he's always been the representative, elected official that is always available, and always took the time to meet with the cities and hear their concerns and represent us. I can't say the same for the rest of them, quite frankly, and so hopefully we get a good one in there, but we will miss Congressman Stewart for sure. On many levels, not just in his role, so, great person.
There'll be about 8 of them eliminated on Saturday from the group. I've tried to be in contact with who I'm guessing might come through, with a couple of individually.
Supposedly Chris Stewart came out and endorsed one
He
today,
endorsed his chief legal counsel.
who I don't think has much chance.
So, anyway, so we'll do our best to keep that relationship. I mean, that is our congressional district. So, yep, for sure. All right, Councilmember Ince.
I basically updated the report with what we had going on in May during the last council meeting, and don't have anything else to report at this point.
Okay. Anybody else pressing with your committees that we need to know about or you want to bring up, other than Robin?
snaps to Robin again?
Yeah, all right. Already took my thunder if we're getting more money, so.
We have to have about 8 more things to overcome all the stuff we said on the newsletter to you. We got to be positive 8 more times.
Kind teasing, it was not me.
Yeah, but I cried all night.
I might just mention that the sewer board recently passed an ADU part of their ordinance where they were going to charge separately for ADUs. So if you hear any residents talking or complaining about that, they were sent bills. It is based on what city data was provided to them by each city, and it came to light after that was passed last month that some of the cities track it a little bit differently. So I don't know that it's been an issue in Centerville, but there was one case where it was it's an ADU, but maybe not permanently so. So they will adjust those on a case-by-case basis if you hear any complaints about that. They
But they
feel like-
did pass that then on the,
They did pass it, so, you know, if you have an ADU, you'd be charged twice for sewer service. But
Is it a one-for-one charge, or is it a reduced charge?
it's a one-for-one, so. So anyway, but if someone does say something to you, they can reach out. So they did adjust it, that the board can make some exceptions if there's a, you know, there were 3 or 4 specific cases that came forward in the last month that were legitimate reasons to maybe reconsider, so.
my only complaint of that would be, you've got a single lady that's living in there, she gets an ADU, and she's got 2, young married couple in her basement, there's 3 at that house, but the next door neighbors, they've got 11 children, and now there's 13 using theirs, and we're charging that.
It was discussed in depth, and that definitely was brought up, and I can get the commentary on that if you'd like.
No, it's all right, I just wanted to put
I
mine out
remember
there.
now all the details. We went back and forth on that. It was a tough decision, but anyway, just so you know, if that comes up.
Thank you. All right, mayor's report. Since committee meetings I've had since we last met was Wasatch Integrated Waste Management. They finalized that equipment purchase that I told you about to do hauling. They approved their budget for next year. The fire board approved the budget, and they also set, or they approved to go through truth and taxation. We have a Weber Basin tour that I'm looking forward to going on, how the water gets from up there down to us, which I missed a couple of years ago, and I'm excited to do on Thursday. A couple of us are going on that. As you know about my meeting tomorrow, what we'll be discussing with COM. And then before we meet at our next regularly scheduled meeting, we have our festivities coming up. We're that close to the 4th. Been such amazing weather, it doesn't seem warm enough to be that close to the 4th. I mean, who needs to move to San Diego when we've had perfect temperatures here? But everybody knows what's happening. We have the activities on the 1st, and then we have activities on the morning of the 4th, but we also have something on the night of the 3rd. Bryce, you want to tell them about what we're doing on the night of the 3rd?
So we have an outside group coming in to host what's called a Children's Entrepreneur Market. And so kid businesses come into the park and they sell their wares. It's kind of a how to start a business model. So that'll be here at Smith Park.
And we've done it before, but
Yeah,
we're
this
kind
is
of
last year's.
included.
Did it a couple times last year.
Yeah.
We're looking at other opportunities to kind of engage different demographic of kids and stuff with the 4th of July. This is kind of a teaser to see if it works this year. I know the event is already sold out. It sold out the 3 days after it opened. So I think there will be a lot of people there. It'll be a great opportunity for council members to be there. And
When you say sold out, what do you mean?
well, they only allow so many booths.
Limited number
So
of
it's the
booths.
booth sold out?
Booths are sold out, but it's a free event. Anybody can come to it. I went to it a couple times last year. Super fun. My kids loved it too. They were able to, purchase different things from different businesses, from food to homemade crafts to, whatever it may be. So
It's really fun, but you better bring your money with you, because they are a hoot. You walk up and down there, and they're like, "Don't you want my cookie? This is
cash
the
or
best
Venmo?
cookie you've ever had."
they do both.
I mean, they are sellers. They just crack me up. They're so fun.
But yeah, that's the Children's Entrepreneur Market. So, and I do have an awesome picture of council member holding a snake from Friday night. No, I'm just kidding. I wish I would have. Anyways, sorry. Had to throw that
Somebody
in there.
thought about that
How
one,
did
but
the
it didn't go
cornhole
over so
tournament go
good.
this week?
It was a league. It was the first night. We have
okay.
8 teams. So
Nice.
we had reptiles in the park on Friday night.
And that did
Councilmember
turn out, it
Rican
was
there.
pretty fun, and no, I did not hold a snake. But my granddaughter held a snake, so she's not got my genes. Because my genes don't hold snakes.
Anyways, sorry.
Thanks.
It was fun.
And the last thing for information for your purposes, I know it's not part of this, well, it is part of the city, but technically redevelopment agency, is that Centerpoint Theater is going to be getting a new executive director. Jensen is taking a job in Texas. And so the board will be meeting on Thursday to talk about the process of hiring a new executive director. So just wanted to give you that information.
Mayor, have you heard from Young Power Sports if they have a date yet scheduled for a grand opening?
I have not.
Your RDA just tripped my brain thinking of that.
I just met with Spencer Young, and he did not fill me on
Okay.
a
So
policy.
you probably don't want to set a date until they're closer.
They were getting pretty close.
Yeah.
For sure. I'll find out more details to see if he has an idea. It's a big deal. They invite Davis Chamber, they invite a whole bunch of groups, so. Anyway, well, I'll find out.
Oh, it was so hot when they broke the ground down there.
It was that day,
Oh,
wasn't it?
remember how hot it was? Our officers were down there in their vests. I thought we were gonna have to give them CPR. Oh, it was like 104 that day.
So if there's no questions for me, I'll turn it over to our city manager for his report.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just have a couple items, just to follow up on the South Bay fire. The increase is 20% is what I don't know if you've shared that the 20% increase in
That's what
fire.
the proposal was, yeah.
But it could shift, but I'll say that there were members of the public who did speak and they were in favor of the increase, which is, not necessarily the norm, but there is support from the community because it primarily is going towards raises for the firefighters and paramedics. The other item I have is we failed to get in a timely manner a public hearing scheduled for our amended 2023 fiscal year. And so we're needing to schedule a special meeting on June 27th. And I hope you'll be able to be there at 5:30. We have two items that we need to discuss. We also have the municipal authority,
Building authority.
municipal building authority. They have about $1,300 in that account. It's just sitting there, so we'd like to transfer that out of that account. It no longer needs to be in there. So we'll just have a brief 5-minute meeting for that, and then have a public hearing for our current fiscal year budget to amend it. We anticipate, we'll do it by Zoom. We're just probably gonna have.
That was what I was.
Yep, city recorder will be here, Nate will be here, and maybe one elected official, but everybody else can be Zoom.
This is,
You'll
this
just
is
send-
on the 22nd?
27th
Oh, the
Tuesday.
27th,
Next Tuesday.
okay.
at 5:30. That's the plan, right?
I already noticed the public.
We already noticed
So-
it. So,
I think I can be here.
yeah, so Zoom.
So you send us the link, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So apologize for not having that on tonight's meeting. We just missed the deadline on that. And that is all I have unless there's questions for me.
Where do we stand on the meeting on the 5th? We still seeing what might come up?
Seeing what might come up. I don't necessarily, we'll let you know a little bit later what we have on the agenda, but we don't know yet.
All right, thank you.
Did you say that was 5 or 5:30?
5:30.
Anything else, anybody? No, we'll look at motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
You missed it by 1 minute.
Council's adjourned.